The remains of the souls of dead creatures I take in might still retain some of their characteristics. Robin's silver avatar opened his eyes wide, took a step back, and looked at the huge tree in the middle of his soul domain. Oh no. Calm down, I said. He retains some of his characteristics and not retains his consciousness. Evergreen quickly waved to calm Robin down. She knew what Hoffenheim was to him. That was the entity that brought him to the brink of death twice. All I said is that the soul force is usually loaded with some characteristics, or you can say some information. Explain more. Robin took a step forward aggressively. Okay. Take it easy a little, would you? Evergreen smiled playfully, then extended her palm forward and something resembling an ice cube appeared above it. Let's assume that the ice cube is the soul of a creature who just died. The ice cube would be the primordial soul plus any soul force that the creature has acquired throughout his life. At this moment of death, consciousness has ended and the soul domain has collapsed, so this soul mass will have no choice but to wander around aimlessly. But even without consciousness, the soul is cohesive and still retains its memories. It also stores all the information and characteristics about that dead creature. And now let us speed up the process by 50 years. At this moment, Evergreen did something that made the ice cube melt until it reached half its size, and a liquid began to flood her palm and drip onto the ground. You can consider this water as soul force as well, but it has become free energy without any information, meaning that it no longer has a connection to the dead creature. It is also the soul energy that you usually absorb using your soul strengthening technique. Usually, when someone mentions the term soul force, he usually means this pure type. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly and pointed at the remaining half of the ice. What about that one? Now we come to the important thing, something you will encounter more often in the future. Evergreen laughed maliciously. The remaining piece contains that creature's initial soul. The initial soul survives up to 50 years after death. Robin opened his eyes to the end, and the concept of death for him began to change. Evergreen shook her head quickly. Okay. Let's not exaggerate here. What do you mean by survive? Death is death. Even regardless of the bleeding of information and memories that happens to the initial soul after death, what is the benefit of the initial soul without a body? Without awareness? It's just that the initial souls are among the secrets of creation and are not supposed to perish, so the initial soul may wander for hundreds of years or more until it is completely destroyed and transformed into an overflow of soul energy, or it may not be destroyed at all. But as far as I know, the initial soul can grow a new consciousness. As long as the initial soul is intact somewhere then. Robin replied quickly, looking like he was thinking about something. This is if the initial soul was protected within its own domain and enjoyed peace for tens or even hundreds of years, but you saw for yourself what happens when you destroy Hoffenheim's soul domain. What souls experience afterward is far from peace. Evergreen waved, but just for your knowledge, there are indeed rare cases where these imperfect initial souls gain a new consciousness. This is often the result of a wandering initial soul colliding with something out of nature or a wandering initial soul staying in an evil zone for a long time, but that new consciousness has no connection to the dead creature whatsoever. It is a terrible, ferocious entity called Wraith. There is a whole race of them in some places. I hope you never meet one of them. Oh, Robin looked at the ground in disappointment, then seemed to remember something and pointed back towards the tree that looked like Hoffenheim. Is that thing a wraith then? Haha, you'd be dead by now. Evergreen laughed loudly, then caught herself when she saw Robin's seriousness. Of course not. My dear owner, did you even give Hoffenheim's soul a chance to gain a new consciousness? You destroyed it and swallowed it with its information and memories. That one over there is a soul creature. Now allow me to go back to my explanation again and stop interrupting me. Robin raised both hands in surrender. Good. Now where were we? Aha! Evergreen nodded proudly and then pointed towards the small ice cube. All known soul strengthening techniques rely on pure soul force, and no one can benefit from this large chunk, even though it is made of the same force. It is just like a person wanting to drink water and having this piece of ice in front of him. He will definitely wait for it to melt, and if he tries to swallow it, it will surely get stuck in his throat and kill him. A great example, huh? That's why I chose the piece of ice to illustrate from the beginning, hee hee. Robin furrowed his eyebrows slightly. Evergreen quickly stopped her laughter and went back to walking back and forth with her hand behind her back. Ahem. But just because most people can't use these masses, that is, the wandering initial souls, doesn't mean that no one can. There are a number of soul specialists who have come up with methods by which they can absorb these wandering initial souls from the air around them or directly from their victims, which gives them a huge boost in their soul force, but it comes with side effects. Soul creatures. Then I quickly continued before Robin asked. A soul creature results from the merging of the information and memories of the wandering initial soul with your soul domain, as your soul domain naturally attempts to make a copy of that creature based on that information, thus producing a soul creature within your soul domain. Evergreen pointed towards the huge tree. A soul creature has the same power as the person who possessed that soul before his death and has all his memories, characteristics, and way of thinking. At the same time, the soul creature derives its consciousness from you, so it can move and do what you dictate to it. It has no consciousness of its own since it sprouted from your own consciousness. Therefore, there is no need to fear it. It has no right to refuse or accept if you order it to do something, and it cannot even have a long conversation. I think you can consider it as a stupid slave. Hoffenheim, for example, is considered a soul creature in the development process, but I think he will be ready for you to order him around very soon. Huh? Ha ha ha. He died because he refused to be my subordinate, so he became my slave even after his death. Indeed, fate is inevitable. Ha ha. Robin raised his eyebrows and looked at Hoffenheim for a long time before he burst out laughing, then shook his head. Too bad it's useless now. What should I do with him? I've read his memories and that's it. Those soul creatures are useless as long as they're locked inside the soul domain, but I think they can bring joy to the place instead of this silence. I don't see any other use for them. Evergreen tilted her head to the side. Who said they couldn't exit the soul domain? Robin opened his eyes wide and looked back at the huge Hoffenheim's avatar. Soul creatures can leave the soul domain. Yes, when Hoffenheim's transformation into a soul creature is complete, you can summon him to fight alongside you. He will even use all the tricks he knew during his life to support you, and it is not just ordinary support either. Rather, he will have a strength close to the strength of his soul when he was alive. Hoffenheim had 850 soul units when he was alive, meaning that only someone in an emperor's realm would be able to handle him. And not only him, but any soul creature in your soul domain can leave or enter depending on your desire. Don't forget that they are made of soul force and their awareness is derived from your awareness, so taking them out will be no different than extending your soul sense. Evergreen shrugged. Are you saying that this thing over there can come out and fight alongside me? Robin pointed towards the enormous tree again, not believing what he was hearing. Evergreen stepped forward and kicked Robin's leg. Are you doubting my words? We are one entity now. Everything I tell you is the truth. Soul creatures will be one of your most feared offensive options. They are one of the attributes of true soul masters, and the one that scares people the most. There are soul masters who have entire armies of soul creatures who, as soon as the gates are opened for them, go out to destroy entire cities without the soul master having to move a muscle. Robin looked back at Hoffenheim for a long time, not even reacting to Evergreen's kick. Let me guess, you are thinking of a way to collect more powerful soul creatures? Evergreen put her hand to her mouth and giggled. You speak as if I were a serial killer who seeks to kill people just to become stronger. Robin shook his head. Evergreen didn't respond, just narrowed her eyes and put her hand on her waist. All right, I do that sometimes. Robin laughed when he saw Evergreen's reaction, but in this case, I don't see much benefit. This is actually good for a solo soul master, but I already have my army, and I will give up everything as soon as I finish my mission and rescue my son, so there is no need to waste my time on this point. It's just that everything about the soul interests me a little, and the fact that the initial soul does not completely disappear is very interesting. Give up everything? Yeah, keep convincing yourself. Evergreen mumbled. Did you say something? Not at all. Evergreen shrugged her little shoulders. Hey, don't you want to know what else I got from refining me? Is there something else? Robin raised his eyebrows happily. The more weapons he had in his arsenal before the incoming war, the better. Of course, but you have to return your awareness to your body. Let's continue our conversation outside. Deep inhale. Well, here we go. Robin listened while sitting on his bed, but his features quickly changed from excitement and anticipation to surprise. So he closed his eyes to focus more. What is happening outside? As soon as Robin regained control of his body, he immediately felt disturbances outside, and his soul sense detected the residents of the steep hill in a state of extreme panic. The air around Robin compressed until it formed Evergreen's body, who laughed and pointed him towards the door. Come out and you'll find out. Robin also wasted no time. In less than a minute he had changed into a clean set of clothes and quickly rushed out. As soon as Robin opened the gate to his palace, he was met with a torrent of energy hitting his face, almost forcing him to take a step back. Robin then raised his head with some difficulty and saw a strange sight. He saw a gray vortex in the heart of the sky. The vortex was so huge that it seemed as if it was intending to swallow the whole planet. And as for the heart of the vortex, rain and strong winds were coming down from it. It did not take long for Robin to notice that those winds are natural energy that raises the percentage of energy in the atmosphere explosively, and that even those rains are also concentrated natural energy. Cool, huh? The avatar of Evergreen appeared next to him. She looked proud at this moment. You are now looking at my reward as a planet that got an owner before reaching the middle planetary belt. Your reward? If these winds continue to blow for a longer period, the energy level here will reach the same level as in planet Nahari, and perhaps more, and if this rain continues to fall, the plant and beast life on the planet will witness a radical change. This vortex will change everything about you forever. Robin took a few steps forward and let the refreshing rain fall on his body. Everything around him seemed like a dream. Of course, this is my reward. Getting an owner so quickly means that I did a good job of strengthening and supporting the population of my world without breaking the rules, even if your presence is considered a bit of a cheat. But who cares? This transformation will give me a huge advantage over the spirits of the planets at my age, strengthen my population to a greater extent, and also compensate me for the losses I incurred in creating your Terra Beast army. I haven't entered the middle planetary belt yet, but already taken a few steps ahead. I knew that staying by your side would pay off one day, but it came sooner than expected. Evergreen giggled. She was visibly happy seeing the changes happening to her. Your Excellency, please take cover. We do not know what is happening. At this moment, a voice came from the gate. One of the guards quickly came carrying a shield and raised it over Robin's head to protect him from the rain. Then at this moment, he noticed something floating next to Robin. Your Excellency, please take cover behind me. There is a ghost behind you. Robin poked his head out from behind the guard and looked at Evergreen. Why didn't you try to hide this time? I have an owner now. I can display myself proudly anywhere. Evergreen raised his head. She had longed for this moment for a long time. Robin smiled and patted the guard on the back. Relax. There is nothing dangerous here. But? The guard remained confused for a few seconds between the events taking place above them and the strange ghost in front of him. But eventually, he lowered his shield and bowed slightly, Your Excellency. Robin nodded. Go tell Alexander the First want him. No, I want you to announce a war meeting at the highest level. Gather everyone important for me. The Nahari invasion will begin any day now. After the guard left to spread the news that the war council had been summoned, Robin did not return inside his palace immediately but remained standing in his place, looking up and opening his mouth, swallowing as much rain as he could. This is the first time he has seen liquid natural energy and even the first time he knows that energy can be liquefied in this way, so how could he not take a sip or two to try? And he was not disappointed. Although it was tasteless as it went down his throat, it gave him a feeling of warmth. Then it penetrated his stomach and he felt it purifying him of any accumulated impurities or toxins. He even tangibly felt the solid energy level number 38 forming faster. Amazing. Just amazing. Robin muttered as he swallowed a few more drops, then looked at Evergreen. Can we do something to retain some of this liquid? I feel like it is a waste as I see it seeping into the earth and oceans without any benefit from it. This process that is happening across the planet is the main purpose. After the rain ends, the plant life will develop tremendously, the beast will become stronger and their meat more useful, and the talent level of the newborn intelligent beings will also increase. Evergreen flew around Robin for a turn, then stopped and put her hand under her chin. but I think I can save some of them for you. Watch that move. After Evergreen finished speaking, she snapped her finger, and Robin felt something strange. Evergreen compacted the ground in many places to create deep holes in the ground, then hardened the stones in those holes so that water would not leak out of them. By simply snapping her fingers, she created several artificial lakes to collect energy rain. The strangest thing is that Robin felt all of this as it was happening, and even monitored the locations of the artificial lakes, even though they were scattered around the entire planet. No, not just that, when he focused a little, Robin began to feel strange things happening, such as the volcano in southwest Greenland that was about to explode, or the group of beasts that started rampaging due to the rain and attacked a city belonging to the Empire, and he even saw them being slaughtered by golden-armored soldiers, as if he was watching them in front of his eyes. So I have to admit, the time I spent refining you is no longer a waste. Robin sighed and nodded. At this moment, Robin felt that he saw the entire planet as if it were on his palm. Does that surprise you? Wait until you see your lifeline. Evergreen put her palms to her mouth and jingled. Lifeline? Robin raised his eyebrows slightly and then automatically sent his consciousness to check the artery. The lifeline of any living being is a closed artery between the heart and the head that retains a certain amount of dense energy, which the ancients called life energy because they noticed that when this dense energy runs out, the owner of the body dies, no matter how hard they try to prolong his life. Even when cultivators break through to a higher level and their lives are prolonged, the dense energy within this lifeline remains the same. What changes is only the speed at which that energy is depleted. So someone like Old Gu, even after he became an emperor and added thousands of years to his life, would still look like an old man because the life energy in his body was still seriously lacking. The only way Robin knew to increase this energy was through the major heavenly law of life, but it was too slow. An experienced life law user may take a month of non-stop hard work to prolong the life of the person in front of him for a month or two. There is another method, which is the artificial life fire law. The user of this law can trap this energy using the green life fire, steal it from a person, and then inject it into another person or thing. But Robin discovered this ability late after he completed the law of the life fire, and when he found it to be a powerful technique, but it was evil and would open a door to the dark path. He gave it to Mila in silence and didn't tell her about this ability, and refused to hand it over to anyone else from the fear that someone might discover it. Until Richard discovered it anyway. This dense life energy can also be used by cultivators after they reach a certain level of control over their bodies. Using this energy produces tremendous power that makes the cultivator break through his limits, but it is also irreplaceable. That is, every drop that is burned brings its owner closer to death. As for Robin, it is true that he lived for 200 years, but he is a high-level sage now and can live for thousands of years easily, so his lifeline was somewhat incomplete, but not to the degree that would suggest danger. But when he checked his lifeline now, he found it completely filled. That's good, thanks. Robin scratched his head and thanked Evergreen, but he didn't seem very enthusiastic. Humph, you don't understand what this means. Do you? Evergreen turned his head around and crossed her hands on her chest. Come on. Try to burn off your life energy as if you were preparing to carry out a major attack. No thanks, I may not look like it, but I still stay young longer. Robin waved. Come on, do it. Evergreen stepped forward and smacked him several times on the head with her small fists. Robin laughed out loud and shook his head. He knew that Evergreen wouldn't hurt him and was just messing with her. So after he tried teasing her a little more, she started focusing on his lifeline again, and he gave the order to burn. A tremendous force rushed out from within Robin as if he were in the middle of an explosion. The wind, rain, and even the sounds of thunder around him all stopped 20 meters away from him, as if he were surrounded by a colorless dome. Robin raised my hand until it was level with his shoulders and closed his eyes to enjoy this tremendous power. Then he suddenly opened his eyes and the dome of energy around him expanded. His life energy exploded wider and his hair began to fly upwards. Even though Robin did not use any attack, the ground beneath his feet cracked, and the palace gate was destroyed when it came into contact with the pure energy emanating from him. The thick stones of the palace themselves did not fall, but rather began to evaporate. At this moment, Robin felt that he could withstand a few seconds against an emperor without using the law of time or space. Ho! Robin's outburst that terrified the residents of the steep hill did not last long. After only 5 seconds, Robin stopped burning his life energy, then prepared to hold his heart and spit out blood, and to quickly check on his body to what extent he had aged. But strangely, he did not feel anything. Rather, there was a storm starting to activate above his head and energy is pouring into his body at a terrifying speed. Astonished by what was happening, Robin went back to check his lifeline again, but he was surprised by a strange scene. What is happening here? Unlike normal, his lifeline was not damaged by use, and the percentage of condensed life energy in it was also rising very quickly. Within an hour or less, it would be completely back to full. Have you forgotten that your life is connected to mine now? Your lifeline will be constantly replenished by the laws of nature on any planet you find yourself on as long as our connection is in effect. Just be careful and don't burn it to zero. Always leave at least 1 drop and it will replenish automatically. Evergreen clapped excitedly. She knew exactly what this means for an energy cultivators. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! This is amazing, Evergreen. Amazing! Robin clenched his hands and laughed at the sky. Regardless of the enormous power he had just experienced, it was more than just power. Using the intense life energy would solve many of the problems that were troubling him. Have you realized the importance of this little lady yet? Evergreen folded her hands and looked up proudly. Wait until you learn the next ability. There is still another ability that you haven't told me yet. Is it like using a lifeline? Robin stopped laughing and faced Evergreen again with eyes full of anticipation and excitement. Of course, using the power of the lifeline is a side effect of linking your life to mine, but it is not my special ability. If it is linked to any other planet spirit, you will have the same result. But each planet spirit has a special ability that it gives to its owner, in addition to binding life and doubling the power of the soul. The special abilities of planetary spirits are strong and appropriate for what the owner goes through in order to obtain them, and it is also one of the motivations that make you want to refine more planets. But it has a flaw, which is that when you activate this ability, everyone around you will immediately know that you are the owner of a planet, so most planet owners prefer to keep it secret so as not to bring harm upon themselves. Evergreen shook her head, then winked at Robin. My dear owner, do you want to know what special ability I have for you? Somewhere in the vast space, Virum, a huge metallic beast in the shape of a snake, opening its mouth wide and exposing its sharp fangs, passed at high speed, interrupting the deadly silence of space. No, it is not a beast. There is no living creature that can survive in the harsh conditions of space in which the planets swim. That thing was definitely a spacecraft. The ship was 1 kilometer long and at least 100 meters wide at the very least. Although sound does not spread in space, one can imagine how loud this machine was just by looking at the amount of energy that comes out of its massive tail to push it forward. In fact, space is not completely empty, but rather it is full of asteroids that can threaten anything that moves, asteroids that range in size from a tiny rock to nearly the size of the moons. However, this vehicle did not slow down or take those asteroids into consideration. It would rip anything that came in its way open with its sharp fangs. The massive size of the spacecraft, its incredible speed, its destructive power, as well as its terrifying appearance. All of these things are more than enough to make anyone tremble in fear when they see it. Damn it! I'm tired of this nonsense. A large man inside the ship stood up and hit his head on the metal wall. Or was it not really a man? That thing was at least 4 meters tall and had gray scales covering various areas of its body, forming several incomprehensible patterns. Its eyes were as sharp as those of snakes, and when he spoke his tongue appeared to be split in two. He also had a thick tail. You are the one who chose to be at the vanguard, Ohan, you have to endure. Another person nearby, who was sitting on a chair and drinking a cup, laughed and shook his head. That person did not have the same specifications as the giant called Ohan. His height was about 170 centimeters as a normal human, and his skin color was also normal and didn't have this obvious grayness. He had no slit in his tongue and no tail either. The only thing that separated him from humans outwardly was his snake-like eyes. Damn you, Bendel. I chose the vanguard so that I could be at the front of the army and fight the New Worlds alone before support arrived. Not to wander in space for years in vain. The giant called Ohan shouted. This is part of the job, buddy. Bendal shrugged his shoulders, closing his eyes and raising his head facing the ceiling. In order for us to find an inhabited planet and have the opportunity to attack it first and collect the first batch of spoils, we must first find that planet. You have been with us for 7 long years. But you're bored already? We could spend 100 years without finding a single one. Then he looked at Ohan with pity. It is true that there are many inhabited planets, but the universe is massive. We are now, for example, moving forward in a straight line, but that does not mean that everything behind us has been explored. Do not forget that there are also directions above us, below us, to our right and to our left, and every direction is open almost to infinity. Then he looked at Ohan with pity. It is true that there are many inhabited planets, but the universe is massive. We are now, for example, moving forward in a straight line, but that does not mean that everything behind us has been explored. Do not forget that there are also directions above us, below us, to our right and to our left, and every direction is open almost to infinity. Heis, that's right, and don't forget that just as out of every 1,000 planets you will find only one that supports life, most planets are not a safe distance from the stars or do not have water. Another person in the room nodded slowly. Trying to find a planet that supports life and is close to the support centers is simply more difficult than searching for a needle at the bottom of the sea. If finding planets with spacecraft was easy, we would not have been able to find only 9 planets during the 10,000 years of our great empire, and 5 of these planets we have not yet been able to completely subjugate. A different person spoke. They all shared the eyes of snakes but differed in the rest of their physical characteristics. Some were very close to humans, while others looked like semi-reptilians. What does this mean? Am I going to spend my whole life wandering through space with you? The person called Ohan smashed the chair next to him, shattering it. His aura at this moment suggested that he was a mid-level emperor. Then he quickly looked at another person in the command room. That person was standing with his hands folded in front of his chest and looking out the spacecraft glass window with a frowned forehead. Well, he had no eyebrows. His body was moderate, about 220 feet tall, and he also had a thick tail. Captain Seagal, give the order. Let us get out of this circle of research. If we search freely, we may come up with better results. The ship captain's facial expressions did not change, as if he had not heard anything. Haha, you want us to move away from the support point, you idiot? Bendal laughed out loud. What if we lose our way and can't come back? What if our bad luck lands us on a planet under the rule of another planetary empire and we had to fight alone? Think about what you say before you open your mouth. So what if we find another planetary empire? We'll just crush them. Is the Great Serpent Empire afraid of anyone? This wouldn't be the first time we've destroyed a planetary empire anyway. Ohan hit his chest hard. Sigh, guys, this guy is hopeless. Why did the specialists appoint him to our elite team and not throw him into one of the regular Vanguard ships? Remind me to write an official protest when we get back. Bendal shook his head. TSK, listen, you combat freak, it's true that we're not afraid of anyone in the Young Planetary Belt, but know that all the planetary empires in the Young Belt have a strong supporter from the higher planetary belts. Otherwise, they wouldn't know anything about interplanetary travel, and we don't want to accidentally crush a powerful person's empire and cause problems for the Overlord. Understand? The empire that we previously crushed belonged to one of the Overlord's enemies, and he was the one who gave us the green light to destroy it. Other than that, we must avoid problems for his and our sake. When Giant Ohan heard the word Overlords, he swallowed everything he wanted to say again, and just kicked a chair and shouted, "Damn it! There's something happening on the horizon." At this moment, a voice came from the front of the spacecraft. It was the captain. Everyone present left their seats and rushed to the front glass window to stand next to their captain. At this moment, a giant vortex was forming in the vehicle's path. This vortex was huge at the edges, but narrow in the middle until its center was almost invisible. What kind of bad luck is this? Captain Seagal gritted his teeth. Change course quickly. That thing is probably a wormhole. Wormhole? When everyone heard this term, their colors changed. These 2 words had only been heard about in cosmic navigation books. According to their studies, if they fell into a wormhole, they would be transported to a random place in the universe. But this is a theory and has not been confirmed because no one has ever entered a wormhole and returned alive. Also, wormholes are unstable, as they appear and disappear quickly, so there is no time to study them. No, we're late. No! All 10 officers took a few steps back in fear. The tape of their memories began to pass before their eyes as they felt the space around them shaking like a leaf caught in a storm. Ohan tried to pierce through the spacecraft to jump into space to try his luck, but he was too late. The wormhole seemed to be targeting them. In a moment it formed, and the next moment it swallowed them. After an unknown period of time. No. Suddenly stability returned inside the spacecraft, and the commanders began to look at their limps and look around at their colleagues to see if they were okay, or if they were not dreaming at all. Did we just survive? A wormhole? Hey, look out the window. The spacecraft's crew continued to experience shocks, but this time it was not a very bad shock. They found in front of them a huge planet, tens of times larger than the normal size of the planets. It was also clear at first glance that it was an active planet containing life on its surface. The planet was dominated by blue color and had a strong gravity pulling the spacecraft towards it. The spacecraft approached the ground more and more until it reached a certain distance and stopped in midair. It was so huge that it appeared as if it were a floating city. One of the side doors opened and 10 individuals appeared behind it, looking around in shock. Bias. The energy density of this planet is equal to the energy density of a planet that has an owner. Is it possible that we reached the main planet of one of the other empires? No, it's very unlikely. In your opinion, how many planetary empires are there in the young planetary belt? We're not that bad of luck. This place is definitely one of those planets blessed with high energy levels. Haven't you seen how big it is? I am almost certain that it is the size of our 9 planets combined. Oh my God, contains this much energy when it doesn't even have an owner? What would happen to it if His Majesty could refine it? The 10 of them continued to look around in shock. The number of inhabited planets is many, but most of them are poor planets in one way or another. There is rarely a planet that has something that makes it special. A planet of this size and this energy density makes it worthy of being the mother planet of any planetary empire. Seagal, the leader of the Vanguard crew, took another step until his foot touched the air. Arg. The intense gravity pulled him down quickly, but he devoted a large portion of his energy to ward off the effect of gravity and flew forcefully until he rose above the spacecraft and began observing the surroundings. He quickly spotted something worth following, so he approached closer and the rest of the emperors flew after him. At this moment, a city near them was witnessing a major fight. The defenders were giants, their height reaching 3 meters, while the assailants were a mixture of multiple races. The battle was intense and bloody to the utmost degree. Neither the assailants nor the defenders were adhering to the laws of war, implementing strategies, etc. What was going on was a pure massacre, where each individual showed his strength in front of the other, fighting until one of them died. It was clear that this was not a battle for plunder or political control, but both sides were trying to annihilate the other. The assailants also did not commit to fighting the army of giants in front of them. Their entire focus was on entering to destroy the city from within and killing civilians, but they also spent some time inside the houses emptying them of shiny spherical objects that looked like pearls from afar. Bring me one of those pearls. Seagal pointed towards the battle, and the rest of the officers immediately knew what he was talking about. One of them approached, using the trees as cover, until he reached the side of the wall, and with a slight movement he grabbed a human, breaking his neck. Then he took the 3 pearls that he was holding and quickly returned to his commander and placed them between his hands. As Seagal touched the energy pearls, his facial expressions changed immediately. This is the purest type of energy stone. Each one of these energy pearls is compressed under special conditions and over tens of thousands of years. This is exactly the type that is collected in order to send it to the Overlord. He is literally supporting us for 10,000 years just to receive batches of these pearls every now and then. Then he raised his face to look at the burning city. A lowly human who was randomly arrested was carrying 3 energy pearls. No, that person took it from one of those houses. Do all those houses that contain energy pearls? Doesn't this mean that that one city contains enough pearls to prepare 2 or 3 batches for the Overlord? Unbelievable. Is this the royal city of the planet or something? One of the officers looked towards the city again with half-closed eyes, but even he himself was not convinced by his words. The city seems very ordinary. It does not even contain a special palace or exceptional defenses, and the number of soldiers on both sides is very small compared to the size of the planet. This is undoubtedly an ordinary residential city. Commander Seagal lowered his hands as looked at the burning city. When Seagal saw the planet, he decided to land in the middle of it so he would have better options, so now he is somewhere in the central region. He has landed in the heart of the events of the rebellion. Ha! Ha ha ha! Ohan looked up and laughed out loud. A huge planet, full of natural energy and containing a huge amount of pure energy pearls. Ha ha! Am I dreaming? We have become rich. Rich! Ha ha ha! Then he clenched his fists and advanced towards the city. Wait, you big idiot, you think a planet this size wouldn't have a number of 4th stage law users? Even we as an elite team wouldn't be able to handle this planet by ourselves. Stay close until the boss gives his orders. Bandal shouted at his colleague and came forward to grab his arm. Leave him. We need to take over that city at least to find out more about the situation. But Commander Seagal stopped him, then looked at the spacecraft and issued a signal. The rest of the spacecraft's doors began to open one after the other, and large numbers of soldiers rushed out. They all tried to float around and form a formation in the air, but they failed to stay flying for long and landed under the spacecraft. Quickly, more than 3,000 soldiers came out, and all of them took up an attack formation immediately on the ground. Each of the soldiers was wearing full, silver-colored body armor and a helmet that concealed his features, and carrying a spear longer than his himself. Although the sizes of the soldiers were different and some of them had different physical characteristics, they were extremely organized, as if they were part of one body. Although the gravity was very strong for people who were strangers to the planet, they were all high-level sages, so they were able to stand and move stably without problems, but they probably would not be able to fly anytime soon. Commander Seagal nodded when he saw the preparation of his elite soldiers and then returned to speak to his men. Take the soldiers with you and impose a complete siege around the city. Everyone inside or outside the city must be killed or else word will spread about our presence. Understood? Yes. The officers gave the military salute and went down to the soldiers to divide the teams. But as they landed, Commander Seagal grabbed Bandal's wrist. I want you on another mission. I can only trust you with it. Just give me your order, Commander. We have been together for 200 years now. Anything for you. Bandal bowed slightly. Commander Seagal did not hesitate. For some reason, the wormhole that brought us here is stable and has not disappeared yet. I want you to take one of the reserve spacecraft and return through the same wormhole to bring support. Then he placed the 3 pearls in his hands. Give these to the support headquarters and tell them that these are abundant here and tell them everything you saw, and give them the coordinates of this planet as well in case the wormhole disappears. Tell them that we have found a place suitable to be our new capital. One day later, No. After Commander Seagal gave the signal, 3,000 high-leveled sages and 8 emperors spread out until they imposed a complete cordon on the area. Then they began to approach little by little, killing anyone they could see until they pushed the giants and the rest of the races together into the city. Then the ship fired 3 energy shots that destroyed half of the city and killed most of the survivors instantly. Then the army of the Great Serpent Emperor entered and killed the rest until the streets turned red, and they destroyed all the buildings they came across to search for energy pearls until the once great city turned into rubble. Out of the 3,000 sages, only 20 were killed. This is still a huge loss for an elite vanguard squad, but it is nothing compared to the outcome. Boss, this is incredible. We have collected 130 energy gems so far. One of the officers came running, hugging a number of pearls as if he were carrying his children. Commander Seagal did not respond happily as the officers expected. Rather, he maintained his silence, but the loud beating of his heart was sufficient to describe his shock. 130 energy pearls in a random place they found by chance. And they haven't even finished the search yet. What exactly is this city? Why are there no large forces to protect these treasures? And what's going on here? More importantly, What would the king of this planet do if he knew that they had stolen all those pearls from him? The door of the city governor's palace finally opened, after a few long hours of being closed, and one of the officers of the elite vanguard squad came out. Every step he took left a trail of blood behind him, and every second he left the door behind him open, blood flowed from it as if someone had left the tap running. His calm features and sharp eyes suggest that this is something he is accustomed to doing every day. The only strange thing about him is his ears and eyes, which shine a faint yellow color. What let you out? Shakut? We still have 1,000 more prisoners. The giant Ohan looked at his colleague in wonder. Officer Shakut spent more than 12 hours in that palace, and more than 50 high-ranking prisoners of different races were forced to get in there with him. Each one of them screamed for a few minutes before falling completely silent, except for the last few people with whom he spent more than 10 hours. No need, I gathered all the information we wanted. Shakut stuck out his cleft tongue and shook his head. The number of prisoners isn't necessary if we are asking about common knowledge. Actually, the first 40 prisoners were just for intimidation. The actual interrogation started with the last 10. When they saw the body parts of the rest, their interrogation became a little easier. You think you got all the information we wanted from just 10 people? How lazy. Han shook his head and then looked at Commander Segal. Boss, tell him to go back and finish his work. Commander Segal merely looked at his officer. Shakut, for a few seconds, have you gathered the information that concerns us? None of us are as proficient in using the simultaneous translation technique as you are. Shakut laughed. The simultaneous translation technique is a high-level technique that relies on the power of the soul to try to deduce what the other party is saying without causing any harm to him. It is a technique that is distributed to all the soldiers of the Great Serpent Empire, but only a handful of them master it to the point of perfection so that they understand almost all the words they hear, and those are allocated in the units as communication officials, of course, boss. And if a specific person has a complaint, let him go himself and continue himself. Hi! Ohan felt annoyed since he was the target, but he did not say anything. He did not care much about developing the simultaneous translation technique and similar communication techniques. All his focus was on offensive techniques. Speak up, what did you find? Commander Segal furrowed his eyebrows and straightened his seat. His officer's next words would determine a lot. It is as you expected, boss. This city is just one of thousands of cities. It does not contain anyone from the royal family or anything like that. There aren't any kings here at all, not even a regime. How is it possible for a planet with such an advanced energy system to not have a ruling system? Hasn't anyone tried to gather an army around it and occupy a piece of land or something like that? One of the officers leaning against the wall spoke in surprise. The different races that were flooding the city were using the internal energy system, and all of their attacks were extremely pure, which means that the internal energy system has witnessed great developments and reached perfection here. As for the giants, their situation is even stranger. They use a physical power system, and at the same time they can launch long-range attacks using the laws. It is a terrifying system that they have never seen before. The number of users of the second and third stages of the laws in this remote city was too large. If it were not for the help of the spacecraft, and if it were not for the Great Serpent Empire's army's exceptional weapons, the losses would not have stopped at this point. How could a place like this be without a ruling system? Shakut shook his head. It is not like that. There was actually a ruling system that depended on the tribes of those giants, called the Nahari giants, but recently a revolution began from the rest of the intelligent races against the race of Nahari giants, and the political and economic system and everything collapsed. It is clear that what we saw today is happening everywhere in the central region. Oh, and they don't have a single person using the fourth stage around. Ha! Ha ha ha! We really hit the jackpot. Giant Ohan looked up at the sky and laughed in an earth-shattering voice. This is too good to be all. What else is there? Commander Segal suppressed his excitement and furrowed his eyebrows. A place containing this amount of energy would definitely not be this pathetic. Well, there are two problems. Officer Shakut narrowed his eyebrows. The first is the northern region. Everyone I investigated spoke of the presence of hundreds of fourth-stage law users there who call themselves emperors, but they live isolated in the northern region and do not care about anything that happens in the rest of the regions, but frankly, I don't know how they would react if they found out about an external invasion. Hundreds. Han cut off his laughter. The Great Serpent Empire extends over 8 planets other than their mother planet, meaning 9 planets in total, and each of those planets contains forces to suppress and protect it. Their forces available to search for and conquer other planets do not contain many fourth-class users. There are only 1,000 or 200 of them. Commander Seagal looked towards the horizon, but he did not look surprised or angry. Rather, he seemed relieved and nodded a few times. A planet of this size and such favorable conditions for cultivation would be strange if there were not a huge number of users of the 4th stage of the laws. Rather, he would become even more worried and perhaps order a withdrawal if he did not hear this news. Fighting against the unknown is the most frightening thing. What do we do, leader? Even if we bring the whole army, we will suffer some losses in that northern region. This will not please His Majesty. One of the officers looked at the commander with concern. Increasing the planets they control means increasing the requirements for the number of soldiers. The killing of a large number of soldiers will put any commander in trouble no matter what his rank. It's okay, we have something to change his mood. We found more than 100 energy pearls in one city. What do you think awaits us in the rest of the cities? And what will we find in the northern region full of experts? Certainly, the treasures there are much more. His Majesty sees that we have collected enough pearls for thousands of years of payments to the Overlord. He will reward us and will not care about the details. Commander Seagal smiled at the unfamiliar sight and pointed at the energy pearls lying on the ground, then looked at his officer Shawkut again. You said there are 2 problems. What is the second? At this moment, Shawkut narrowed his eyes and looked serious. The second. This planet had seen 3 Truth Chosens, one of whom is still alive. 3? 3 from one planet in the Young Belt? And one of them is alive too. Commander Seagal couldn't remain seated. Even the rest of the officers around him had their facial expressions turned for the worse as well. Exactly, they respect them here and call them Heaven's Chosens, but they don't know what makes these Heaven's Chosen what they are. After knowing the history of the 3, I can easily say that they are all Truth Chosens, and that the existence of the 3rd Heaven's Chosen and that he is still alive is confirmed information. After using my methods of investigation, the prisoner has no room to lie. You know this, boss? Then Shawkut furrowed his eyebrows. What is not confirmed yet is the news of the appearance of a 4th Heaven's Chosen one who is the disciple of the 3rd. What nonsense! Is this a joke to you? We know about truth users because of the information provided to us by the spirit of the Poison Rock planet. She said that most planets do not have a single truth user from their genesis until they return to the primordial chaos. We ourselves have arms in 9 planets and have not encountered a single truth chosen. But here there are 4 of them, and even 2 of them are alive in the same generation. Has this accursed planet captured the fortune of the entire young planetary belt? I don't want to deal with someone who uses a damn master law, let alone 2 of them. We have to get out of here and report to the Emperor immediately. Calm down. Commander Seagal raised his hand and shouted to his followers. It is true that the Master Law's users are rare and should be avoided as much as possible, but Master Law of Truth users are different. They are merely curious researchers who spend most of their lives in seclusion or wandering. Those green eyes of theirs enable them to see what we don't see in order to develop their lucky planets faster. But that's all. In terms of individual strength, they're nothing worth fearing. But the planet they are developing must be feared. One of the officers spoke quickly as he looked around. The user of any Master Law is not an ordinary person. Can you imagine the result of the work of 4 Truth Chosens on one planet? Brother, they are not called disaster harbingers for nothing. If you find a Truth Chosen and supported by a kingdom, leave the place to them and escape with your lives. Isn't that what the spirit of the Poison Rock planet told us? That damn wormhole sent us into a deadly trap. We have to get out of here. Ha ha ha, this is interesting. I've always wanted to knock some master heads off. Ha ha ha. The only one who seemed excited was the war madman, Ohan. Commander Seagal sat in his seat with difficulty again and took a long look around him. He knew that his officer's words were sound and that they were right, but the decision to leave this huge planet and all of these good things was not easy at all. Finally, he turned back to look at Shawkut. Your next words will decide what we have to do. Tell us more about the two who are alive. Did they choose a solitary life, or did they choose the path of war and rain? Shawkut furrowed his eyebrows and looked at the ground for a moment before shaking his head. It's a bit complicated. I'll tell you what I know and you decide. The third truth chosen was a wise man who helped the oppressed intelligent creatures against a race called the Nahari Giants and founded a sect for them called the Nahari Union Sect and provided for them with techniques, weapons, and money to the extent that it enabled them to control the entire eastern region, which is nearly a quarter of the planet, in just 20 years. According to the words, he was a truly genius man from a scientific and military standpoint. There is no person who has not heard of him or talked about him on a daily basis around here. He is literally a legend for some and a nightmare for others. Commander Seagal sighed when he heard it and resolved to take his ship and leave until the main army arrived or His Majesty ordered what they should do, according to the spirit of the Poison Rock planet. This third chosen one of truth was the worst kind they could encounter, but for a moment he opened his eyes wide and looked at Shawkut again. Did you just say, was? Shawkut nodded again and stuck out his cleft tongue excitedly. Everyone says that the third truth chosen was betrayed by his sect and chose to abandon them. He is still alive, and it is said that he is the one who supports these internal wars across the planet secretly with weapons and plans, but his place is currently unknown, and he does not have a kingdom or specific forces under his command anymore. As for the sect, it fell after him and entered into internal wars and lost all the lands that were under their control. The big smile returned to Commander Seagal's face. His support for these wars of extermination and his abandonment of the sect he created with his own hand is an indication of his discontent with the planet. He is no longer a threat. Rather, if we offered him to be our guest to show him to the world and expand his horizons, he might join us. Oh, I can already imagine the number of treasures His Majesty would give if we bring him a truth chosen to work for him. The rest of the officers showed smiles on their faces as well, except for one who interrupted their joy. What about the fourth truth chosen? Now that's the problem. Shawkut placed his hand under his pointed chin. The last truth chosen or the fourth heavens chosen. That person is the disciple of the third heavens chosen. He only became famous 5 years ago after he suddenly appeared and took over the reins of the Nahari Union sect again. But he did not declare war on anyone, but rather he announced that he had become a heavens chosen like his master and called for peace, and contented himself with calling on everyone to join him and leave the internal conflicts. During the 5 years that he ruled the sect, he contented himself with spreading techniques and weapons among his followers and facilitating the process of bringing more members to the sect from other regions, and he focused specifically on building castles and defenses intensively until the eastern region, especially a place called the Desert of Death, was transformed into a large fortress. A while ago, you said that the sect has completely collapsed. I don't want to belittle a Master Lo user, but it is impossible for him to have completely revived it in only 5 years. Commander Seagal furrowed his eyebrows. Strange. Why is he calling for peace while at the same time building such large defenses? In order to confront invaders coming from another world. Shawkut chuckled. Huh? Not only Commander Seagal but all the officers and even the battle-mad Hun were shocked by the response. Shawkut shrugged his shoulders. The legendary Third Heavens Chosen rumored that within 50 years, invaders from another world would come to plunder the planet's resources and enslave the population. It was even said that he founded the sect in order to confront the invasion, and because he is a trustworthy person, it is clear that some fools believed his prophecy and began to prepare for that awaited invasion. A prophecy about an otherworldly invasion? He knows about the existence of other planets? Well, all planets will see an invasion sooner or later. He really is a genius to try to unite his planet like this. But isn't this 50-year period too specific? What if the period passes and no one comes? Won't his credibility be destroyed? Maybe this third truth chosen isn't that smart after all. Commander Seagal rubbed his chin slightly and looked at Shawkut. This is really strange. Shawkut, when exactly did that prophecy spread? Precisely 50 years ago. The rest of the officers who were sitting stood in amazement and looked at Shawkut with open mouths. Commander Seagal himself seemed as if he was still trying to comprehend. 50 years ago, he predicted that an external invasion would arrive this year. Does he mean us? The only one who looked around in surprise and asked was Ohun. Do you see anyone else? Do you think that foreign invasions come once every weekend? This doesn't make sense. We didn't know about the existence of this place until today. What the hell is going on here? I told you that messing with a user of a master law would bring no good. That bastard can predict 50 years ahead. Calm down, everyone. The spirit of the Poison Rock planet didn't tell us anything about the truth users predicting the future. Maybe it's a coincidence? Maybe he just wanted to gather people around him with this lie, or appear as a mysterious person. Your presence among us as an officer is a coincidence, you idiot. If he had wanted to gather people around him quickly, he would have said that the invasion would come in just 10 years, and if he had wanted a long-term plan, he would have said that in 1,000 years, why exactly 50? Secondly, our presence here means that he was right. Your presence among us as an officer is a coincidence, you idiot. If he had wanted to gather people around him quickly, he would have said that the invasion would come in just 10 years, and if he had wanted a long-term plan, he would have said that in 1,000 years, why exactly 50? Secondly, our presence here means that he was right. Boss, that third truth chosen is a very dangerous person. Let's withdraw until the main army arrives. Pam, Commander Seagal kicked the wall he was leaning against and it turned to dust. The situation he suddenly found himself in was too dangerous and too strange. They are not a reconnaissance squad, but rather an elite vanguard force, equipped with the most powerful space warship other than the mother ship, and all of them are armored with the latest and strongest armor and weapons in the entire Empire. Meaning that their mission is not just to find inhabited planets and report them, but to occupy parts of these plants and establish military bases in them to be a foothold until support arrives. What would he say to his superiors if he backed down now? Aren't you overreacting too much? Even if he meant us, so what? The third truth chosen has disappeared and now wants to destroy the planet more than us, and as for warning the people 50 years ago of our arrival. Ohun pointed toward the burning city behind him. In my opinion, they are not prepared for us that well. Shakit nodded and pointed at Ohun. What the empty head is saying is true. This is why I did not panic when I finally managed to see the big picture. Currently, only the Nahari Union sect in the eastern region, led by the fourth truth chosen, is anticipating our arrival and preparing for us. Commander Seagal looked back at his officer, Shakut, for a moment before turning back to look at the city. So we can say that the northern region, which is full of fourth-stage law users, and the eastern region, which is ready to fight against us, are out of reach for now. But the central, western, and southern regions are open for us. We can build bases here and start looting until the army arrives. A big smile appeared on Commander Seagal's face. Then we will burn everyone who stands in our way. City of Hope, Eastern Region. A person came running, pushing everyone in his way, shouting, "Urgent report! Urgent report!" When he reached a huge door, he pushed it with both hands and shouted at the top of his voice, "The awaited report has arrived." The huge door was for the operations hall, which is a place designated by the sect master, Jabba, in order to monitor the events of the planet during the current year and monitor any suspicious movements. In this place, all the elders of the sect gather day and night to read reports, make countermeasures, and plan to confront every scenario. Jabba's pressure on them to do all these things on a daily basis made most of them alienate him and feel bored. A large number of them were certain that no invasions would come at all, but they did what Jabba wanted to please this young martial emperor. But when they heard the term awaited report, they all felt their hearts stop. What exactly happened? Even Jabba, who calmly leads the situation daily, seemed very nervous. The central region, sect master. The central region is burning. The messenger moved forward slowly, with his eyes wide open. It has just arrived that, in just 3 days, 10 cities of the Nahari giants and 30 settlements were destroyed and all their inhabitants were killed. The numbers of those who managed to flee are almost negligible. A large number of elders stood in succession. The battles between the Nahari giants and the rest of the intelligent creatures were indeed a war of extermination, but not to the extent that everyone was willing to die in order to kill a person on the other side, so the battles always ended with one of the parties withdrawing. But the destruction of 40 cities and settlements, and killing everyone in them, This is almost equal to all the damage that has occurred since the beginning of the internal war. What's going on here? Who committed this atrocity? Ozan hit the table. Have the giants gone mad? Or are they the revolutionaries? Damn. I told you that we have to prevent more weapons from reaching them. Neither this nor that. They are. Reports say that they are people wearing silver armor and have physical characteristics different from all the intelligent creatures on the planet Nahari. It is also said that they speak a different language. They came. One of the elders felt weakness in his feet and fell down. Sai, His Excellency has spoken the truth. He has truly spoken the truth. Has he ever lied to us? Even Jabba, who was 100% certain that Robin would not say anything unless he was sure of, and he knew with absolute certainty that the invasion was inevitably coming, felt his breathing becoming more and more faint. News of the invasion had been spreading for a long time, but no one paid attention to it. Some of them did not believe it, while some of them did believe it, but they told themselves that we would deal with them when their time came. The only one who took the matter seriously and made some preparations was him. Should he really face an alien invasion alone? They destroyed 40 cities and settlements in 3 days. They did not try to communicate with us at all. They are really here to kill and plunder, as His Excellency said. There is no room for negotiation with an enemy like this. Jabba leaned back in his chair and spoke slowly. Sect Master, what do we do now? All the elders looked at Jabba. Make copies of these reports and attach some evidence to them and send them to all the forces in the eastern, western, and southern regions. The fighting must stop for all immediately. Announce that the otherworldly enemy has come. And coordinate with the Giants' tribes and the rest of the forces in the eastern region. I want to meet them as soon as possible. Jabba announced and then turned everyone's back. And blow the horn, the Nahari Union Sect army must be ready when needed. What about the central region, Sect Master? One of the elders quickly asked. They're done for. Somewhere in the eastern region. A few days ago, Jabba ordered the information they obtained to be leaked to all the forces in the eastern region. Then he sent ambassadors to invite them to come to the sect. Whether giant tribes or organizations of intelligent beings that had not yet joined the sect, everyone was welcome. But no one responded, so Jabba was forced to send his ambassadors again, and this time announcing that the meeting would be on a neutral hill in the middle of the eastern region, so that no one would feel threatened. This time everyone answered the call and came, but they did not appear to be afraid of Jabba, but angry. They were angry because the Nahari Union sect had the audacity to summon them in this way as if they were the head of the eastern region, but at the same time, they had no other choice since the situation was truly an emergency and could not be delayed. They had no doubt that the claims of the Nahari Union sect were true even though they had no means of communicating with the rest of the regions. Even though they have the sound rings, the size of Nahari planet is extremely large and its laws make it difficult for the sound to travel all this distance without getting lost. However, they believed the news from the sect and came quickly. In the end, they had all been part of the sect for many years and knew what Sect Master Robin was capable of doing. But their knowledge of the seriousness of the situation did not extinguish their arrogance. Whenever someone tries to speak, another person interrupts him, and whenever one of them suggests something, no matter how good a suggestion it is, the rest of them reject it anyway, so that it is not said that so-and-so tribe has power over the rest. Even the Nahari giant tribes were not united today. At best, there are only 3 tribes sitting at one table and speaking with one tongue. As for the rest, each tribe has its own opinion. Even the rest of the forces of the eastern region spent most of the time looking at the leaders of the giants' tribes with discontent as if they wanted to bite their necks off. The strange thing is that no one addressed the Nahari Union sect, suggested anything to them, or took their opinion on anything, as if they did not exist at all. From the beginning until this moment, Jabba did not say a word. He just continued to look around him with looks filled with pity and pent-up anger, wanting to see how far this ridiculous play would reach. The meeting lasted for 2 hours, but without any significant progress except that a few small fights broke out and were quickly suppressed. It was disastrous in every sense of the word. Do you still find time to argue? Wake up from your rosy dreams. The invasion is already here. Ozan hit the table in front of him to attract the attention of the audience, but no one paid attention to him and they continued shouting at each other. Sit down, human. How dare you raise your voice in front of your masters? Do you think we are still ignorant and you can control us as happened before? Stick to your limits or we will start with you. The son of the leader of one of the giant tribes stood up, pulled out his sword, and pointed it at Orzon. The glowing sword was clearly a newly made divine weapon. You! Orzon shouted and almost replied that they could actually still eliminate their tribe if they wanted to, but he restrained himself so that the situation would not deteriorate further. Sit down, boy. It's not the right time for this yet. That tribe leader pulled his son aside with a sardonic laugh and then looked at Jabba. Sorry about that, you know the impulsiveness of youth. What youth? Your bald bastard is over 500 years old. One of the sect elders standing by could not restrain himself from this lie. Who is the bald bastard? I dare you to say it again. The bald bastard pulled out his sword again. Before the elder could respond, Jabba raised his hand to silence him. But he did not respond, instead rather passed his eyes over the audience. Would one of you be so kind as to tell me exactly what is happening here? It is impossible for all of you to be so clearly stupid, to quarrel over trivial matters and put your arrogance and pride aside in front of your lives when the enemy is already under our noses. Is there not a rational man among you who can talk to me? Humph, what do you know about pride? Phew. One of the Nahari giants spat on the ground and did not add another word. Then another giant spat, then another, until even the leader of the lightning giant's tribe, Thander, spat on the ground in disgust. Since Jabba returned and appeared in front of the public for the first time, news spread that he had turned into a human, and all the giant tribes looked at him with contempt, especially the lightning giant's tribe, who announced that they disavowed him completely. Jabba did not become angry at this situation but rather seemed as if he did not hear it and went back to looking around. Perhaps someone would say something useful. All those present here are leaders who ruled for hundreds or thousands of years, geniuses, heads of secret organizations, or even other sects that were founded on the same approach as the Nahari Union sect. There was not a stupid person among them, so what is the purpose of what they are doing? Finally, Jabba heard the voice of an old person from the astral race, Sect Master Jabba. You are the one who brought us together. Isn't it your job to tell us what you want first? Does this even need to be said? All right, I will say it. I am calling to form a general alliance in the eastern region. Jabba announced loudly. What is the purpose of this alliance? The old astral asked again. Jabba furrowed his eyebrows at the stupid question. Fending off the invaders, of course. Where are the invaders now? He asked again. Jabba calmed himself and replied, in the central region, it is true that their momentum has decreased compared to the first days, but they still continue to conquer. They have destroyed 23 cities and 60 settlements so far. Oh, in the central region. This means that they will have to cross the desert of death in order to enter the eastern region, right? Old Astral spoke with a smile. You don't want an alliance to confront the invaders. You want us to come together to defend your sect. Jabba opened his eyes to the last of them upon hearing this, and returned to look at all the attendees again, and found them all calm, with no significant reactions. Is this what you all are thinking? You think that the Nahari Union sect will be your first line of defense, which is why you have already started discussing what will happen after we are destroyed by the invaders. Jabba the outcast's son, it was said that you were the #1 genius in the eastern region, but the fact that you haven't discovered something this simple yet tells me a lot about your silliness, hee. The astral old man laughed maliciously. The rest of the tribal and sect leaders laughed as well and began to shake their heads. What the old astral said is completely true. Why did they respond to the call of the Nahari Union sect in the end? Because in their eyes, the sect was already doomed. Is the sect master's silliness the problem, or your unbearable filth? Our sect was the first to warn the entire population of the planet about the invasion, but now you are abandoning us. Orzon couldn't help himself. What makes you think you can withstand the invaders without us? We heard that your sect has built many forts over the past 5 years along the Desert of Deathline. Those forts should slow down the invasion army and perhaps cause them great losses. Then we will see what we have to do from then on. One of the giants laughed. Orzon almost lost his mind. Nonsense. Our sect has enough strength to defeat you all in an open battle, and if we are inside our fortresses, none of you would dream of touching a single stone of one of the walls. If the enemies have enough strength to take us down, Wouldn't they be able to destroy all of you, a bunch of clowns who can't organize themselves? Defeat us all in an open battle? What audacity! My tribe alone is enough to play with you. As for coordination among us, our problem is ours. A group of dead people should mind their own business. One of the leaders of the giant tribes spoke indignantly. Whenever he remembered that he once worked for this clan of lowlifes, he screamed in humiliation. If this is how you view us and have such confidence in your strength, then why do you need us? Go and fight, we will be cheering for you from here. Okay. Calm down everyone. I see that cooperation between us and the Nahari Union sect is not that out of hand. Actually, if you want my tribe to participate in the defense at the Death Desert line, that is possible, but we will not work under anyone's command. Withdraw from a few forts and hand it over to me. This is a reasonable solution. My tribe will also participate if we receive 3 fortresses. The veins in Orzon's forehead began to twitch violently. You want us to hand over to you the fortresses that we put all our energy, money, and knowledge into making on a golden platter? If we hand over to each of you 2 or 3 fortresses, where will we go after that? What is the difference between this and death? Even if we handed it over to you, do you think you can benefit from the arrays in it without knowing what it is? Why not? Do you have another solution? Only with our men can you hold those fortresses. They are of no use to you if they are empty of strong warriors. One of the leaders of the secret organization spoke and then laughed. As for operating the arrays, that is simpler, you just need to teach us how to use them, haha. You! One of the elders of the Nahari Union sect almost stepped forward to clash with that hateful dwarf, but he restrained himself. That dirty dwarf wanted them to teach them the secrets of the arrays that the sect master had brought with him as well. Jabba rested his forehead on his hand and began rubbing between his eyebrows. Suppose the Nahari Union sect fought alone and was destroyed. What then? What do you intend to do after that? Isn't this what we're doing now? We're trying to decide our future plans, but you're disrupting us with your chatter, you freak. Take the rest of your followers and leave already. Go and prepare for death. One of the giants sneered and started waving his hand as if he was swatting a fly. Jabba swallowed his saliva and tried to remain calm. If sacrificing the sect is the way to defend a planet, then that's okay. Consider me dead. What's next? Who among you is ready to compromise and choose someone else to lead the alliance against the invaders? Ha ha ha. Do you think you should have been that person? Daydream, folks, he's daydreaming. Haha. The leader of the Lightning Giants tribe spat again and looked at his son with disgust. Have you not disgraced yourself enough yet, you freak? Get out of the men's gathering place. Sect Master. The Nahari Union sect elders standing behind Jabba dug their fingers into their palms. What kind of humiliation were they being subjected to? Why is their master silent? So the Nahari Union sect has 2 options, either to fight completely on our own or to hand over the management of our fortresses and cities to you. Is that right? It seems to me that you communicated together before coming here and agreed to kill us in all cases. Interesting. Jabba nodded calmly, then suddenly started laughing. But what is strange is that you agreed to reduce the strength of the eastern region by besieging us from behind and killing us off, but you did not agree on a single strategy to confront the invaders after that, oh my. I cannot believe that His Excellency had to deal with you for more than 20 years. No wonder he sees you now as a useless weed. No wonder he didn't consider taking you into account in this war, as if you don't even exist. No wonder he risked his relationship with me just to not see your faces again. No wonder. Damn you and that Excellency. I have truly wasted my life and resources on a dog like you. Get lost already and stop bringing shame to me and you. Thandor shouted angrily. Jabba's laughing features turned completely calm, as if he were a deep ocean in the summer. My master is a man like no other, and I learned a lot from him. When he first came here, he founded the sect and provided it with everything, and even when he annexed the tribes of giants, he did not spare you anything and provided you with weapons and techniques, but you turned against him in the end. So he then turned to use the theory of the stick and then the carrot. So he destroyed Jura, Greenland, and the farm planets first, then he gave them the carrot, and they feared and obeyed him for it. But I did not want you to obey me out of hatred and fear, so I offered peace and got busy with my own affairs, and even until this moment, while the invasion is already here destroying the cities of our brothers. I came here peacefully to hear your opinions. But again you have proven that carrots alone will not work for you. What are you raving about? Put that carrot up your ass and get lost before I smash your head. One of the giant leaders stood holding an axe. But Jabba did not stop, unfortunately. His Excellency's system of invading your tribes and bringing your noses to the ground will not work. I still need your forces and weapons, so I must make you fear me without harming your forces. Then Jabba slowly stood up till this moment. You all still view me as the son of Thandor, the monster who turned into a human, His Excellency's obedient disciple, or perhaps an idiot chasing dreams of controlling the eastern region. Now how do I fix this? I know. I have to do something that will be etched in your minds forever. That's enough. We will not wait for the invaders to come. I will kill you today. The giant with the axe had had enough and began to advance. Virum. At this moment, intense gravitational pressure came down on everyone's heads. The giant who started running lost his balance and fell hard, crushing his face. Everyone who was standing sat down in their places, and those sitting felt like their bones were breaking. At this moment, even if someone wanted to scratch his nose, he wouldn't be able to. What? Force! One of the giants screamed when his shoulder bones were broken due to the pressure. They knew that Jabba had become very strong, and some said that he had become a martial emperor, but no one believed it. Even those who believed ignored the matter. What would one emperor do in a place where more than 100 high-level dragons gathered? Only now do they know how wrong they were. Damn it. The giant who was intending to attack Jabba with the axe looked at Jabba as he was coming towards him with eyes full of anger. He had no doubt that Jabba would now try to humiliate him in front of everyone to prove his position and strength. Deep down, he swore that he would take advantage. The right opportunity to respond to this humiliation. But Jabba did not say a word or even touch him. Rather, he slowly moved forward until he stepped on the face of the giant lying on the ground, then passed him and continued on his way toward his father, the leader of the lightning giant's tribe, Thandor. That bastard must be bragging about his strength in front of Thandor to make him regret abandoning him. He really is a child, everyone thought at the same time. You disobedient filth! Thandor shouted as he thought about what else Jabba wanted to do, but he couldn't move at all. When Jabba approached a suitable distance, he stopped and finally opened his mouth. Mr. Thandor, I apologize for choosing you, but I could not find a better option to deliver the message. What message? I will... Boom. Before Thandor could complete his question, a huge hammer landed on his head and he immediately exploded. Somewhere in the central region. Boom. Damn it! 1st Division, retreat quickly. The commander of the 1st Division, Ohan, shouted to his followers, but he remained standing like a peg. The first squad of elite vanguards, which was supposed to be made up of 500 high-leveled sages, armed with the best weapons of the Great Serpent Emperor, and at their head was an officer with the strength of a mid-level emperor, did not look well at all at this moment. Their shiny silver armor was filled with holes and broken pieces, some even missing a limb or two, and their current numbers did not reach 300 at best. You're not going anywhere. A human carrying a heavy golden sword raised it to the sky and brought it down with all his might, and he was not alone. Behind him were over 3,000 people from the various intelligent races in Nahari, each one of them carrying a different golden weapon and all of them striking at the same time. Hiya! In response, 1st Division Commander Ohan gathered all his strength into his fist and unleashed a powerful attack from his silver gauntlet. Boom! Again, a massive explosion occurred, forcing the 1st Division Commander, Ohan, to retreat and causing the death of a number of his division members. But the rest were able to retreat to a safe distance, and Ohan quickly followed them, with his tail between his feet and a thread of blood appeared next to his mouth. This was the first time he was injured since he was transferred to the Vanguard spacecraft and was appointed head of the 1st Divisions. No, this is the first time he has been injured since he became a martial emperor. Almost 2 months have passed since the invasion began. On that day, Commander Seagal ordered the soldiers to be divided into 6 divisions, each division headed by an officer, and each division must advance in a specific direction to collect the largest possible amount of energy pearls. Of course, this can only be done by destroying any city they see. In the beginning, the mission went smoothly. No walls could withstand a martial emperor, and no defenses could withstand 500 fully armored high-leveled sages. It would not be an exaggeration if it was said that almost a quarter of the central region was leveled to the ground during the 2 months, and during this period Commander Segal and his companions gathered more than 20,000 energy pearls. This huge amount almost drove them crazy, but their rush and enthusiasm did not last long. After the initial confusion and fear, the residents of the central region began to realize the situation and began to gather, and unknown golden weapons began to appear. It soon became clear that these golden weapons, although their composition was noticeably different, were equivalent to their silver weapons in terms of power and had almost the same uses. In the beginning, 10 people carrying these strange golden weapons appeared in one city, and they were enough to confront a number of the vanguards, but in the next city 50 appeared, then 100. And today they found 3,000 of those weapons in one place. And it is not just the appearance of weapons, but there is clear coordination. Some soldiers said that they saw people dressed in black and wearing black masks guiding the local soldiers from behind. "You're not going anywhere," one of the locals shouted loudly and followed Ohan and the rest. Because of the force of gravity, they were all running on the ground, which made escaping much more difficult. "Don't push your luck, you local worms." Ohan stopped again and sent a quick attack backward, killing 10 pursuers, then continued his long jumps again. As a 4th-stage law user, Ohan could undoubtedly escape anytime he wanted, but he definitely couldn't confront 3,000 sages and saints attacking at the same time, especially when they were using those damned golden weapons. What was forcing him to stay in the rear to endure all these attacks was that he wanted to return to Commander Segal with at least a few of the soldiers entrusted to him. But at this rate they will all. Virum. At this moment, a huge metal serpent appeared in the sky, opening its mouth. It was the spacecraft. A huge energy ball gathered in the mouth of the huge metal serpent, and then boom! 20 giant energy balls headed toward the locals one after another without stopping. No! When the local residents saw the huge energy balls approaching, they raised their weapons and launched their attacks at them as well, but the exchange of attacks was of no use this time. The energy ball evaporated the attacks on its way and continued on its way until it exploded among the local residents. In an instant, a 2-kilometer diameter hole appeared in the middle of the forest. The bodies of the 3,000 sages no longer exist. They have evaporated. The side door of the vehicle opened and Commander Segal emerged from it, signs of anger clearly written on his faces. "Hello, boss." The giant Ohan finally breathed a sigh of relief, but he did not look his leader directly in the eyes. After the golden weapons began to appear a while ago and the resistance became more powerful in traps and a clear organization of the resistance began to appear, Commander Segal issued an order to stop advancing further in the same way and to merge every 2 divisions into one. But Ohan ignored the orders and advanced anyway. "We salute the commander." The remaining soldiers gave the Great Serpent Empire military salute, then sat down and treated their wounds. "Hello? Do you even realize how much damage you've caused?" Commander Segal shouted at his officer as he descended towards him. After a few seconds, Ohan sighed and scratched his head before he also took a military stance and shouted, "I apologize for my negligence. I caused the death of 200 elite soldiers, and this is an unforgivable loss that has weakened our great empire. Damn the 200 soldiers. In order to save you, I had to use the maximum power of the cannon, and I consumed 1,000 energy pearls in total. I will write this in the report about you. You will pay for them one way or another, you reckless bastard." Segal came forward and kicked his officer in the face. 1,000? Just to save me? Who do you think I am? Those bastards wouldn't even touch my hair. You're the one who hastened. When Ohan heard about consuming 1,000 pearls, he forgot to wipe his face from the traces of mud and responded quickly. "Idiot, there was a trap waiting for you ahead with 4,000 locals carrying these same weapons. Had we not come, they would have closed in on you from all sides and killed you." Commander Segal pushed his officer away. "For 1,000? But I decided to attack this settlement today. How did they plan and prepare for something like this?" His shock quickly turned into fear. If he were attacked from all sides with those golden weapons, there would be no way to escape. What happened requires careful monitoring and analysis at the highest level. They even predicted the direction in which you would flee, or at least pushed you to take this specific direction. There is a hidden web being woven around us. Those in black are plotting something, and what happened today will certainly not be the last. The commander sent one last angry look towards his 1st Division commander and looked towards the horizon. Enough looting for now, we have already lost half of our soldiers. 19,000 energy pearls is not bad loot either. We will choose a city in a good location and settle there until the main army comes. I want to see what the black-clothed bastards will do now. News of the arrival of the promised foreign invasion and the destruction of a quarter of the central region spread like wildfire throughout the planet except for the northern region. Since then, life has almost stopped. Whoever was planting his fields stopped, and whoever was planning an attack on a city or settlement postponed. Everyone had no topic to talk about except what was happening there now and what would happen to them later. Will the citizens of the central region be able to deal with the alien invasion? Or is war coming to them inevitably? However, all of them, whether allies or enemies, humans or giants, repeat one sentence during every discussion. He was right. The southern region, inside the bedroom of one of the leaders of the giants' tribes. The atmosphere inside this huge room, with a ceiling height of 8 meters, was not what was expected. In contrast to the gloomy, stagnant atmosphere outside, here the room is filled with attractive perfumes mixed with the smell of sweat and faint red lights coming from volcanic stones. Go away. The naked giant tribe leader raised his hand, and more than 20 girls of different races began to leave the room in succession, and only one female of the Nahari giants race remained. Although her features did not look as attractive as those of the Astrals and she did not have a sexy body like a human, it was clear that she had a special place with the tribe leader. My love, what do you intend to do now? Oh, you mean that freak Jabba's offer? Forget about him. The tribe leader waved in disgust, like the other giants, when he heard that one of the Nahari giants had turned into a human, and he felt goosebumps all over his body. Even though he had never seen Jabba before and knew nothing about him other than some of the news about him that was circulated in the streets, he still hated him. I don't think this is something you should ignore like this. The female straightened up and moved her finger on the tribe leader's bare chest. The Nahari Union sect spread the news of the invasion years ago and we all thought they were lying, but it turns out they were right. What if they knew more things than we know it? Maybe we should listen to them. Contact all the giant tribes in the southern region to support you as their leader, but only 5 tribes answered the call. How will these people benefit us if the invaders come to us? Didn't you hear how they destroyed dozens of cities and settlements in a few days? My love, please think. In fact, if there is one party that can unite everyone now in the face of this invasion, it is certainly the sect. What after I think about it and listen to the freak's offer seriously? Should I pledge my allegiance to a thing that is neither a giant nor human? Phew. The tribe leader spat on the ground next to him. Don't overestimate those lowly beings. The third heaven's chosen is the only thing special about them. He is the one who gave them this information but later abandoned them. They are now just a fragile outer shell. Why should I allow those rabble to take over the leadership of the entire world? What do they have now that I don't have? They have the fourth heaven's chosen. The female tapped the tribe leader's chest forcefully. Lie. Are heaven's chosen sold on the sidewalks nowadays? The freak hasn't done anything to prove that he's a heaven-chosen one. It's just a rumor to gain support. The tribe leader straightened up and shouted, secondly, if that freak or anyone else wants my support, they should come to me personally and talk to me and offer what they have. Why should I go to him? At this moment, the scene in front of the tribe leader changed. A person wearing all black and wearing a back mask with only his eyes appearing revealed himself at the end of the bed and spoke in a harsh, obviously modified voice. Here I come. Let's talk. Who are you? How the hell did you get in here? The tribe leader quickly rose up and grabbed a huge hammer that was beside him. Wait. My love. Look at how he looks more. The female who was hugging him quickly grabbed his arm before he waved the hammer. The physique of a weak human wearing a black mask and carrying daggers that sneak around without you noticing. He is without a doubt a shadow sword. Then this is one more reason to get him. The tribe leader shouted. The Shadow Swords have recently become famous for bringing weapons, news, and information to the lower races. Everyone knows that they are conducting this entire war in secret, but no one has succeeded in arresting a single one of them. The female grabbed him more and began to convince him to listen to what the Shadow Sword had, and that this was the first time that the Shadow Sword had communicated with the giants. The tribe leader still tried to advance more than once to attack him, but the Shadow Sword itself remained standing in its place and did not move a step or say anything. A word, as if he were watching a play whose ending he knew. He knows that they are behaving like this for the tribe leader to concede in the end and allow him to speak, which will give him the feeling that he is the higher party in the discussion. This was not the first time he had dealt with this type of situation. Indeed, after a few minutes, the tribe leader sat in his place again and waved the Shadow Sword with an angry expression. I will listen to my mistress and postpone killing you for now. Say what you have to say quickly before I cut off your head. As for the Shadow Sword, he spoke directly with his eyes half closed. You have 3 options. The first is to be part of the Southern Region Alliance, and we, the Shadow Swords, will be the leaders in it, and you will have nothing to do but listen and obey. The second is to go with your entire tribe towards the Eastern Region and fight under the banner of the Nahari Union sect. The third is that your tribe and all your allies be annihilated starting from this city. Huh? Ha ha ha. Is this a joke? You will be the leaders of the Southern Region? Who are you in the first place? And who is this freak in the Eastern Region that you want me to fight under his banner? The tribe leader laughed angrily. Do you know who I am? With a wave of my hand, I can move 6 tribes. Bring me your leader, whomever he is, and let him kneel before him and ask for help. Then I might think about it. Don't be so angry, my love. He's just a messenger. He doesn't know who you are. The female laughed as well, then looked towards the Shadow Sword. Come quickly. Tell him the benefits he will receive and his high position in that alliance, or he might really kill you. No positions, no benefits. If you accept, you will live, that's all. Without anger, joy, or any emotions in his voice, the Shadow Sword replied. You are courting death. The tribe leader couldn't contain himself any longer and waved his hammer. But it landed on the floor of the room, and the Shadow Sword had already disappeared. TSK, they're good at escaping, as they say. The tribe leader placed the hammer on his shoulder and spat on the ground again. But this will teach them to send me someone with a higher rank next time, humph. You did well to keep up with me, my love. They will definitely come back humiliated next time. It is impossible for them to start another war when the foreign enemies are at the gates, but we have to do something about those intruding rats. There is no doubt that the female felt threatened by the appearance of the Shadow Sword in this way. Of course, they wouldn't dare do anything even if the invaders hadn't come. Don't you know that I'm the master? It's an emergency. At this moment, a terrified shout came from outside, and someone opened the door without waiting for permission. Please look out the window. Normally, the tribe leader would have struck that messenger's head immediately, but a bad feeling came over his heart and he slowly walked towards the window. Oh my heavens! Humans, dwarves, astral, forest seekers, and the many more races, even the demons were here. Soldiers of low races surrounded the city as far as the eye could see, each holding a golden weapon in his hand. At this moment, a modified voice entered the tribe leader's ear. You have chosen the third option. Good. The northernmost part of the Eastern Region, the Great Line. Between the burning flames and the suffocating gases, 5 Nahari giants bravely made their way without looking back. Some of them were covered with wounds and burn marks, and some of them showed signs of suffocation, but they continued on their way. Although the speed of the 5 of them clearly indicated that they were Dragon Realm experts at the very least, it was not known whether these wounds were from before or after entering the Great Line. The Great Line between the 5 regions. All kinds of dangers exist here, zones under the dominations of high-level beasts, active volcanoes, certain death zones where toxic gases spread everywhere. It is as if all the bad things on the planet are gathered in the Great Line, as if an intelligent being has drawn this line with his own hands. Of course, most of these dangers can be avoided by riding a Draco's back or even penetrating the Great Line in an organized and slow manner while taking the necessary precautions, but a Draco is very eye-catching while being slow and organized is not available to people on the run. For them, There was no choice but to use their strength as Dragon Realm warriors and directly pierce through everything they find to save their lives. But after everything they have seen since entering the border, they no longer know whether one of them will survive or not. Cough, cough. Move. Don't stop. We're almost here. One of the 5 giants spat out blood and then took another leap, rushing forward. Damn! Cough, that ungrateful freak Jabba. Not only did he abandon his fellow giants and became a filthy human, but he also chose to start a war at a time like this? Why didn't the heavens strike him dead yet? After Jabba killed his father in front of everyone, he took off his mask of conviction and love of listening to the other side and declared that he could not get into a war with the foreign invasion while there were many fools lurking behind him. So he announced the unification of the eastern region under one authority. His authority. Of course, the powers present did not like these words. Jabba's strength and the sight of him killing his father in cold blood shook their hearts. But who among them had not killed 1,000 or 2 before? How can they remain silent about being subjugated without a fight? Indeed, a fight broke out on the hill, but Jabba quickly killed 5 other leaders. Without any hope of victory over Jabba today, especially since many of the sect elders were with him, everyone began to flee in different directions at the same time. Jabba succeeded in retaining some of them with a massive gravitational field and killing them, but a number of them succeeded in escaping and telling the entire eastern region about what happened in that fateful meeting. Then Jabba sent another announcement to the entire eastern region. All forces have 2 options. Either to completely surrender and integrate into the Nahari Union sect, and they will have a share of the spoils after expelling the invaders. Or the second option, which is to disappear completely into one of the distant mountains and swear an oath not to show their faces again until the invasion ends, and those will be punished later for not helping in the war when needed. As for those who do not want to completely surrender or withdraw will be destroyed. The brutal announcement destroyed the image of Jabba as a coward who is hiding behind the achievement of the 3rd Heavens Chosen and turned him into a usurping tyrant, and also made everyone's eyes turn to the sleeping monster, the Nahari Union sect. On the same day as Jabba's announcement, the armies the Jabba has been working on emerged from the sect like ants. In the blink of an eye, 20 armies appeared, each one consisting of 100,000 law users and headed by an elder at the top of the Sage Realm. The massive show of force sent terror into everyone's hearts and let them know how serious Jabba was in his announcement, and they finally began to take the 3 options seriously. The powers of the inferior intelligent beings began to communicate with each other in secret. They did not want to fight the sect, as they knew that the sect was the shining edifice of the inferior intelligent beings on planet Nahari, and that the sect was the one who gave them the opportunity to have powers of their own in the first place. So some of them yielded and went to declare their loyalty to Jabba and the sect with the intention of fighting with them, and some of them withdrew towards the deserted mountains and valleys to establish settlements there until the chaos ended. As for the giant tribes, as expected, they decided to fight until the end. It is not like they are now under the leadership of a specific person or tribe, but they agreed to confront the sect and send aid to each other when needed, and that's all. But they also sent a declaration to Jabba informing him of their unity and expressed their intention to fight against the invaders, but without anyone leading them, meaning that when the enemies appeared, each of them would send whatever soldiers he could. But Jabba flatly refused and said that he was not stupid enough to trust these words. On the same day as the announcement of the unification of the giants' tribes, Jabba ordered the sect's armies to move. 20 armies moved towards the nearest 20 tribes, and a war that the eastern region had never witnessed before began immediately. Rather, it was a massacre that rivaled the one occurring in the central region. One of the tribes that was attacked first was the Lightning Giants tribe. Jabba personally went there at the head of the army and tried to convince his uncles and grandfathers to surrender or at least retreat to the mountains, but they all spat at him and called him many words. Among them was honorless, traitor, and kin killer. Once again, Jabba was forced to kill his family members with his own hands. This time he even had to kill his grandfather, the one who raised him during his childhood. Sect Master Jabba isolated himself after that battle and did not come out again until several days later. It was said that faint crying sounds came from his room more than once. The battles lasted 2 months until all the cities of the Lightning Giants tribe were put under control, and for their army and the ruling class to be completely destroyed, but under the orders of Sect Master Jabba, The army did not kill people who did not take up arms, including children, women, and the elderly. They were only captured and sent to the sex prisons to be rehabilitated. The same orders were issued to the rest of the sex armies as well. They destroyed everyone who raised a weapon and arrested the rest. In the battles that lasted a few months, Jabba filled the prisons that he had prepared in advance with hundreds of thousands of Nahari giants and was forced to build more prisons for them. Some laughed at the situation and thanked the heavens that they had lived long enough to see the fortunes reversed and how the giants were now confined to their own settlements. No one expected that Jabba would use the sex forces to attack in such madness, especially since the foreign enemy was at the gates. In the face of these crazy massacres, kidnappings, and imprisonment, they had only one hope left: the North. The northern region remained silent during the Civil War, but how do they remain silent when a foreign invasion comes? If they are informed of what is happening, they will step forward and lead the entire world against the invasion. Then the threat of Jabba the Freak will disappear. Dozens of giant tribes began sending batches after batches of messengers, but after weeks had passed, no news came, nor did they detect any movement from the north, so they started sending more messengers, but this time from generals and elites to ensure their arrival. Advance. We are almost there. You are saying these words every day, you bastard. Cough. One of them coughed blood and tripped, but he quickly got up and dashed forward again. Cough. We must communicate the news to the northern region. We must arrive. Finally, the poisonous gas cleared in front of them, and a branching river and a beautiful small waterfall remained in the shadows. The fresh air here and the sounds of small birds washed their souls for a moment. A sight like this was definitely not within the Great Line. Ha ha. Cough, cough, we did it. Don't stop here. We must reach one of the cities. We must. One of the 5 giants took a few steps forward, but his body did not listen to him. He collapsed to the ground in exhaustion after he felt that he had finally reached safety. Huff, huff, let's stay here for a while and catch our breath. Another giant took 2 steps more before collapsing on his face as well. He didn't even have the strength to take a few more steps until he reached the river. There is something wrong here. The voice of the youngest of the 5 appeared. The path was difficult and full of dangers, but it was not impossible to pass. Why haven't we heard anything about the messengers who came before us? Maybe our luck was good and we did not encounter the real dangers at the Great Line? The giant lying on the ground mumbled with his eyes closed, already beginning to fall asleep. No, I don't feel good about this. I don't think we have reached safety yet. We must not stop until we meet one of the officials and deliver the message. The entire eastern region is counting on us. The young giant urged them again. Alvarano is right, let's get going. The giant pushed the ground with both hands so that he could stand again. Even his extreme fatigue could not be forgotten by the logic in his colleague's words. Who's there? At this moment a voice came from the side. Who? The bodies of the 5 giants shook in terror. They lived in imminent danger for about a full month. Passing the Great Line made their nerves tense to the utmost degree. But they were relieved a little when they saw a male of the Nahari giants approaching them. He was bald with strong, sharp features, wearing loose clothes, but his muscles were prominent underneath, and on his chest was a rosary composed of 9 large beads. Although he did not attempt to emit his aura, his mere appearance suppressed them all. I know him. I have read a lot about the emperors of the north and saw a painting of all of them. One of the 5 giants, the eldest of them, knelt down when he saw the bald giant. Hail your majesty the martial emperor, monarch of the 9 suns. We salute his majesty the martial emperor. The rest of the giants quickly stood up and knelt down as well. 2 of them had already begun to have tears in their eyes. They had the opportunity to deliver the report to one of the emperors of the north directly, as soon as they left the Great Line. What's going on here? Did you come from the east? Don't you know that entering the northern region is forbidden for you? The 9 suns monarch furrowed his eyebrows and began to advance towards them. Your Majesty, there is an emergency. The older giant raised his head and shouted in terror. An invasion from an outside world has come, and the 4 giants opened their eyes wide in astonishment as they saw the head of their 5th fly in front of them in slow motion. Why did you have to yell at me? That's annoying. The Nine Suns monarch shook his head. The remaining four stuck their heads to the ground, their foreheads starting to drip with sweat, and their wide-open eyes looking as if they would never close, still trying to process what had just happened. You there, speak, but in a low voice this time. The Nine Suns monarch chose one of them randomly. Me? Yes, yes. The youngest of the giants tried to gather his courage and decided to say the most shocking thing that came to his mind. There is a foreign invasion that has landed in the central region. They want to exterminate everyone. What do we have to do in the central region? What else is there? The Nine Suns monarch waved boredly. What's our business? The young giant was about to go crazy, but he restrained himself and thought of something else to say. There is a person called Jabba. He was a giant, but he disgraced our race and turned into a human, and now he is trying to destroy the eastern region. He has already controlled half of it and killed millions of victims. The monarch of the Nine Suns tilted his head to the side. What's the problem if he destroys you? Sect Master Jabba may be a fool for leaving His Excellency's side, but the orders still say that he is a person worthy of respect. Sect Master Jabba? His Excellency. What the H? Before the young giant could complete his sentence, a huge flame ball appeared above the head of him and his three companions. The three of them turned into charcoal within a few seconds without any significant resistance. I see you caught one of the groups today too. Good job. At this moment, a human landed next to the monarch of the Nine Suns with a gust of wind. He was wearing loose clothes without armor or even anything to cover his face, and the only thing on his body was 2 rings and a bracelet, a space ring, a sound ring, and a gravity bracelet. That human stood next to the monarch of the Nine Suns as an equal to him and not as a follower or someone who came to deliver a message. His aura didn't seem much weaker either. This is the second group today. Did you get one? The Sun Monarch spoke calmly as if he had not just killed 5. Yes, these attempts to get in have been increasing recently. Without the support we have received, we would not have been able to cover the entire Great Line. The human emperor nodded. I have received reports that the Great Line separating the northern and central regions is witnessing an explosive increase in attempts as well. This cannot continue, even with a complete encirclement by the Ashira tribe and 40 of you as support. We cannot continue like this. Sooner or later, one of those groups will be able to break through the encirclement and get into the northern region. The Nine Suns monarch narrowed his eyes. After he was subdued using the soul enslavement technique, the Nine Suns monarch immediately carried out the same trick on the rest of his relatives and slowly took control of the entire Ashira tribe. Immediately after that, they were ordered to encircle the entire northern region. In the beginning, it was not that hard, with the presence of dozens of Ashira martial emperors and thousands of experts in the Dragon Realm. Stopping anyone from getting in or out was easy, especially since the numbers of those trying to cross were not large. But this changed during the last few months with the arrival of the invaders. So through the space portal that Theo secretly arranged its construction in the northern region, the Ashira tribe was supported by 40 human emperors of lightning and wind users, but even after the support arrived, it does not seem that they would succeed. The area they had to protect was simply too wide, and a wider deployment of forces would expose what they were trying to do. The human emperor nodded. There are several groups of northern giant tribes that were trying to cross as well, but we had to make them disappear under mysterious circumstances as well. After a few seconds, the Nine Suns monarch looked up at the sky and muttered, Master Richard will have to make a big move soon, or I'm afraid we all will be in big trouble. All right, I understand. Keep up the good work. Richard took off the ring and tossed it to the side. This was the 7th report from the Great Line Guards informing him of an increase in intrusion attempts recently. None of them said anything more than just facts, but Richard clearly understood what they wanted. They were all pressuring him to take the next step. But none of them knew how difficult this step would be for him. Richard at this moment was not in his palace designated for him, nor was he visiting someone in his home to treat him and give him a piece of fresh meat. He was sitting in a dark spot under an old tree, and next to him was a human with a distorted face. It was Peon. Almost 5 years have passed since Peon offered to summon the army of the true beginning empire, and although Richard refused to antagonize the entire army and begin an all-out war on the Azul tribe, the 5 years were not without quite a few earth-shattering events. Richard said that if the Empire's army came to attack the Azul tribe directly, the old agreements between the northern tribes would be activated, and they would all come to help the Azul tribe even if they didn't want to. By then it wouldn't matter whether the true beginning empire had enough strength to fight the entire northern region or not. The losses would be tremendous. Richard, just a few minutes ago, was refusing to use any help from his father, so how could he accept now to use everything Robin have and even harm his father's army to this degree to accomplish his revenge? Therefore, he contented himself with requesting a number of martial emperors of wind, lightning, and darkness to follow up on the sabotage operations and hunt down the martial emperors of the Azul tribe in secret. Pion was relieved when Richard made this decision. He knew better than anyone the dangers of starting a direct war against the northern region, but this was the only way as long as Richard refused to cooperate and refused to leave the city. But since his plan succeeded and he was able to win Richard to his side after this comprehensive offer of support, it is best to put the issue of total war aside. After receiving the response, Theo didn't delay further, brought several rune masters through the Hope City space portal as merchants, and then smuggled them to the northern region where they created a space portal there. And from that space portal emerged 30 human martial emperors who were appointed to carry out Pion and Richard's orders. The arrival of reinforcements heralded the beginning of the end of the Azul tribe. On the same day, 5 martial emperors from the Azul tribe were hunted down and disposed of in complete silence. Then the very next day the heads of the 5 were hung on 5 different city gates under Richard's orders. The killing of those 5 caused an earthquake in the entire northern region, especially since the 5 disappeared while they were inside their tribe's capital city. Taking into account the 2 who were killed by Pion and his team previously, the total number of martial emperors killed from the Azul tribe is now 7. The killing of 7 martial emperors has not happened since the era of the Second Heavens Chosen. And who did all this? Angry ghosts. If a damn ghost can reach such power that it can fight martial emperors, then what's the point of cultivation anymore? Even the northern tribes that were trying to put pressure on the Azul tribe could not help but restrain themselves and re-evaluate the situation. They all began to suspect that there was one of the tribes among them who was secretly carrying out these actions, so some of them began to search with specialists from the Azul tribe to identify those responsible for these incidents as if their expectations were correct. Who can guarantee that what happens to the Azul tribe will not happen to them later? However, this did not ease the loss of the Azul tribe. If everyone was thinking about this hypothetical, how could Dewuder not think about it? Losing 7 martial emperors was a huge blow to the family's pride. But the fact that there was another tribe or tribes, in the worst case, killing his family and destroying his city made him lose his mind. It was said that the screams of the tribe leader, Dewuder, rang throughout the entire city on the day they found the heads of the 5 martial emperors, and he ordered the army to destroy everything they see until they found a tip of a thread that would indicate what was happening. He told them not to find a pebble without overturning it, and not to leave a wall without knocking it over. But this reckless order caused massive massacres and fighting between the citizens and the army inside the city. What man would let a few soldiers enter his house to destroy it, turn it upside down, and even search his wife and children? And of course, Richard did not miss this large banquet. Kidnapping incidents reached their peak during these riots until he hunted 1 million more victims. Within a few months of the arrival of reinforcements, the capital of the Azul tribe turned into a ghost city. All its residents were killed, kidnapped, or broke down the city gates and fled. Even the tribe's army, which Dewuder was boasting about, had its strength reduced by half after the clashes with the citizens, but mostly because Richard was focusing his kidnappings on them. But not everything went as Richard wanted this time, as these massive events brought behind them 2 problems. The first is that a few secrets were revealed. His preoccupation with kidnapping more than 1 million people in just 2 weeks enabled one of the martial emperors to specialize in the investigation to finally find the source of the energy. That martial emperor stood in front of Richard's palace with eyes spitting blood and anger eating away at him from within. Then he clenched his fist back, ready to destroy the palace and Richard with one blow. Fortunately, Pion and 3 other human martial emperors were present to prevent him and cut him down into 14 even pieces where he stood. That is, the number of dead martial emperors from the Azul tribe reached 8. But that fight, even if it was short, attracted the attention of the army and a number of giant martial emperors who rushed to the location and saw Peon and the rest fleeing. They tried to catch up with them, but them catching up with human martial emperors who used the perfect heavenly law of wind and had a gravity bracelet? They soon found out how impossible this is. The second problem is that after the buildings were leveled to the ground, the places in which the human martial emperors could hide became very few, and some of them were indeed found and clashed with, but their organization and availability of support, and most importantly their ability to fly, enabled them to retreat easily every time, but in the end, they were forced to evacuate the already empty city and Richard was forced to leave with them unwillingly. His plan to stay still in the Azul tribe until he was strong enough and met Dewuder was no longer feasible after he was exposed. But he quickly calmed himself that this plan was never feasible because he would not have remained calm until a day like this came anyway. His hatred for the giants in general and the Azul tribe particularly forced him to use the fire of life daily to kidnap and kill, and this would have exposed him sooner or later. And all of this was nothing but a spark. Both sides witnessed a dangerous escalation. As for the giants, after it was proven that the killers of the Azul tribe martial emperors were not ghosts as was said, nor were they giants from another tribe, but real martial emperors of the human race. The rest of the tribes completely backed down from pressuring the Azul tribe, and some of the nearby tribes even sent parts of their armies to them for help with a few of their martial emperors as support to investigate for themselves what happened. Out of his intense anger, Dodar moved his army and all the support armies that came to him and decided to destroy all the human settlements in the lands of the Azul tribe. The rest of the 11 Nahari Giants tribes also decided to send armies to turn the human settlements in their lands upside down. Perhaps they would find any evidence as to why there were martial emperors of this lowly race. But that didn't end as they expected. The decision to storm the human settlements came for the sake of venting anger for the Azul tribe and to collect information for the rest of the northern tribes, even though they know that their endeavor is not without real benefit. As Richard and the rest of the humans' martial emperors who support him have a different body composition than the humans known to them. However, they decided to go anyway just for the sake of it. The decision was made quickly as if it was something they took for granted. They could storm wherever they wanted and kill whoever they wanted. The decision was very easy, like taking candy from a child, but they soon learned that they had hit a hornet's nest. The army of the Azul tribe that was sent to attack the human settlements was completely destroyed. Even the forces of the rest of the tribes throughout the northern region were all annihilated. This was the first time that the settlements of the inferior races showed some of the power they had been accumulating with the help of shadow swords. Golden weapons appeared for the first time and a huge number of saints and sages appeared with them. Huge defensive and offensive arrays that covered their whole settlements also played their part. And even the modified instant arrays that operated with banners such as the field hospital, the Sea of Fire, and the Frost Domain appeared in this battle. These battles throughout the northern region paralyzed daily life in all the giants' tribes. They are not like the giants of the rest of the regions who have been living in a state of war for years. This was the first time they knew about the enemy lurking under their noses. And it is not a simple enemy either. In addition to the tremendous power, clear organization, and unusual weapons that have appeared, humans are the favorite slaves of the giants, and this is why their numbers are always the highest of all races. It is said that there are at least 10 humans for every giant in the northern region, and now this enemy that is 10 times their number has gained enough power to threaten them. After this campaign, silence fell over the entire northern region. The northern tribes began to communicate with each other to see what they could do in this strange situation. Their position changed from sending a few army squads to search a few slave settlements for the sake of showing face solidarity with the Azul tribe, to finding themselves in the center of the hurricane. Who cares about the Azul tribe anymore when there is an enemy breathing at their necks? As for the Azul tribe, they remained silent, completely silent. They were not like the rest of the tribes that sent a few army squads to conduct inspections. Rather, they sent most of their forces to annihilate the human settlements in a fit of anger, and now all those armies were annihilated, and in return only 2 human settlements were destroyed and a few other settlements were damaged. They felt their spines break, and even the tone of condescension in the mouth of their boss no longer existed. They did not participate in talks with the rest of the northern tribes, nor did those tribes try to communicate with them anyway. And at the same time, Richard did not remain quiet. After being forced to leave the capital of the Azul tribe, he did not find a place to vent his burning hatred any longer. So he decided to go to the nearest city belonging to the Azul tribe and began mass kidnappings there. Then the second city. Then the third, etc. Richard, currently called the Death God, began to roam all the cities and villages belonging to the Azul tribe, one after another, completely emptying them of their residents. He did not differentiate between a civilian and a soldier, between a young man and a girl, or between an elderly or a child. Everyone received the same treatment. They were taken underground and were never seen again. There is no way to put a number on his death tally anymore. But even after committing this madness, the blaze in his heart did not cool down. So he spent more than a few weeks drawing a work of art specifically for De Wouter and his entourage. One morning, while De Wouter was sitting alone, as usual, with his head between his hands, crying at times, screaming at times, and laughing at other times, a person came shouting that they needed him quickly to look out the window. When he weakly looked outside, he found the gift. Hills of mutilated corpses surrounding his destroyed capital, burning with pale green flames. The capital of the Azul tribe was huge in every sense of the word. Before its destruction, it hosted tens of millions of giants and a larger number of slaves. But that enormous capital was now completely surrounded by corpses, to the point that its walls next to those hills looked like walls made by a child. Everyone who saw this scene immediately knew that the Azul tribe was finished. The number of dead here portends one thing, which is that not a single giant remains in the lands of the Azul tribe except those who are now inside the destroyed capital. However, those 20 martial emperors soon wished they had remained where they were, as 4 of them were hunted down and brutally killed within 1 month, forcing the rest to move with extreme caution. The Azul tribe, the striking force since the reign of the second heavens chosen, the tribe that has 47 living martial emperors. 12 of them have been killed and they only have 35 left, all of them either hiding inside their destroyed capital surrounded by armies or trying to search for Richard in silence. The martial emperors of Azul who were hiding underground and who were pretending to be dead came out and started searching for Richard everywhere like crazy. None of them cared about the reaction of the rest of the tribes when they learned that there were 20 additional martial emperors belonging to the Azul tribe. What matters now is eliminating this threat and rebuilding whatever remains of the tribe. That's if the rest of the tribes allow them at all. However, those 20 martial emperors soon wished they had remained where they were, as 4 of them were hunted down and brutally killed within 1 month, forcing the rest to move with extreme caution. The Azul tribe, the striking force since the reign of the second heavens chosen, the tribe that has 47 living martial emperors. 12 of them have been killed and they only have 35 left, all of them either hiding inside their destroyed capital surrounded by armies or trying to search for Richard in silence. As for the tribe's leader, De Wouter, it was said that not a sound had come out of him since he saw Richard's gift, and even the sounds of laughter, crying, and screaming coming from his room had stopped completely. As for the other tribes of the north, they have completely forgotten about the Azul tribe. They no longer care about what is happening there, and they certainly are not interested in their lands or the number of martial emperors hiding. After the threat of the human settlements appeared, all their forces abroad were summoned and they began preparing armies to finish off the human settlements, and this time all the martial emperors of those tribes prepared to lead the armies themselves. But something happened that forced them to remain where they were. The settlements of the rest of the intelligent beings mobilized their own armies in a majestic show of force. Each settlement prepared an army of several thousand law users, armed or armored with the same golden weapons and carrying the same black banners that humans used in your previous battles, and with the presence of thousands of those settlements scattered throughout the northern region would not be an exaggeration if it was said that the land was sufficed with armies that day. As for what they wanted to do with that show of force, they all declared that they would support the human settlements if the Nahari giants' forces took a step toward them. The entire northern region fell into deep silence again. Their preparations for war were like a bubble that suddenly exploded into nothingness. Giants usually do not do anything that requires manual labor themselves. Anything that requires effort other than cultivation is done by slaves from other intelligent beings, and all of those slaves end up dead within a short period of time due to mistreatment. For this reason, the number of settlements of the other intelligent beings is very large as they need them in abundance. In the northern region, if the settlement reaches a certain population, They kill a number of them by using the demons, or they send them to the restaurants of intelligent beings, or they would divide them and send half to establish a new settlement somewhere else so that they can better control over them, and this made all the cities of the giants submerged in huge numbers of settlements. The peace that the Nahari giants had enjoyed in the northern region completely collapsed that day, and without any major wars. By now they did not know whether provoking the human settlements was the right decision or not. After the appearance of those armies and the announcement of support for human settlements, all the giants' armies stopped. Every tribal leader tried to assess the situation, send more reconnaissance teams, and communicate with the rest of the tribal leaders to form a united front against this madness. But one tribe did not stop its army, the Dariki Giants tribe. The leader of that tribe became angry when he heard the reports of the armies in the nearby settlements, but he did not take the time to think rationally. In an instant, he divided his army into 20 sections, with each section headed by a martial emperor, and then sent them towards the 20 nearest settlements with an order to level them to the ground. A massive fight raged that day. The entire army of the northern tribes was armed with divine weapons and had the best techniques left behind by the first and second heavens chosen. With all of this was on the one hand, and the presence of a martial emperor on their side was on the other hand. But all this was not enough to capture the meager settlements as quickly as they expected. Although the settlements have almost no walls to protect them, they have the Sky Shield dome that Robin personally designed, and although they lack emperors, they have a huge amount of golden divine weapons, which they use simultaneously to force the enemy martial emperor to retreat. And as for the techniques and weapons of the giant clan army, Dariki, how do they compare to Robin's techniques, weapons, and instant arrays? 20 different fronts opened that day, and all of them had reached balance. The Dariki giants' armies were unable to penetrate the settlements, and the settlements were unable to force them to retreat due to the presence of a martial emperor among them. But the fighting did not last long either. While the Dariki giants' armies were trying to invade those 20 settlements, the rest of the settlements in the area, numbering more than 40 settlements, gathered and headed towards the capital of the Dariki giants' tribe. One of the females of the Dariki giants' tribe said a phrase that day, and the rest echoed it. She said, "She feels that her city is a big piece of candy and that settlements are like ants that want to pounce on it." In fact, the description was not very far from reality. The unified army, made up of 40 colonies from 13 different races, covered the blue color of the ground. If one of the giant's children had thrown a pebble from the top of the wall, it would certainly have fallen on top of the head of one of the soldiers below. The leader of the Dariki giants' tribe panicked and wanted to summon his armies abroad, but whenever he sent a Draco beast or any type of small bird to deliver the message, it was immediately shot down, meaning he was completely cut off from the outside world. Although there are still 7 declared martial emperors inside the capital and 18 hidden ones, if a battle were to start here and in front of these numbers, the city would certainly be destroyed. So the leader of the Dariki giants' tribe tried to communicate with the leaders of this army of fellow intelligent races, but they did not respond to him. The strangest thing is that they did not attack either, they just remained standing where they were. In the end, the 20 armies learned what was happening in their capital, so they retreated in panic, hoping to save what could be saved. However, they found their capital intact and did not find a trace of the united army of intelligent beings. They all retreated before the army of giants arrived. That kind of excessive force and very precise planning and execution terrified the tribe's leader and even the rest of the martial emperors of the tribe. They thought they were a group of mice happy with some technique they had found by chance, but this level of coordination among them clearly suggested the presence of a leader. A leader that, if he wanted to destroy the capital of the Dariki giants' tribe, he would have done it so. That's why the tribe's leader ignored all the voices calling for revenge for this insult and remained silent. It was said that his features looked as if they had aged 1,000 years during those few days. Taking revenge on whom exactly? What happened reached the ears of the rest of the giant tribes as well, which made them breathe a sigh of relief that they did not send their armies abroad before gathering enough information. They also began, for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, to strengthen their cities with defenses and collect supplies in preparation for a long war, as none of them had any intent to go out and fight in this sea of enemies. Even if their martial emperors had enough power to go out on their own and crush those settlements, who could say that the settlements didn't have emperors as well? Who are those who are destroying the Azul tribe now? are they not said to be human martial emperors? In terms of numbers, the intelligent race's alliance wins sweepingly. In terms of weaponry, they have perfect law techniques and the golden weapons, and in terms of high-end experts, they have an unknown number of martial emperors. Everyone who has authority in the Nahari Giants tribes felt his head melt. The period of accumulation of supplies and deadly silence lasted for about 6 months. None of the giants were allowed to leave any city without escorts, which restricted the economic movement of the giants of the entire northern region and plunged it into extreme poverty. In return, other intelligent beings took control of the mining, agricultural, and other strategic zones. They also began to form a road network between them to speed up the movement of goods and support at any time. They seemed to be ignoring the existence of the cities of the giants among them. The leaders of the giant tribes were being pressured day and night to take the decision to advance and trample those settlements, but none of the leaders wanted to repeat the experience of the Dariki tribe, and they certainly did not want to repeat the tragic experience of the Azul tribe. So they remained inside their cities and tried to send envoys to see the requests of these strong slaves, but all the envoys were being rejected and forced to return, which caused more anxiety for the giant tribes. Until this moment, they did not know what they were facing and why. But this isolation finally ended, as the Ashera Giants tribe announced that they had succeeded in communicating with them. Martial Emperor Aronov, the leader of the Ashera tribe, came out and announced that he had succeeded in communicating with the inferior races and came out with a reasonable result. This news enveloped all the cities of the giants in a matter of a few days like a thunderbolt. After dormancy that lasted for months, they finally saw a way out of this frozen situation. Although the leader of the Ashera tribe apparently succeeded in what hundreds of giant nobles couldn't, no one doubted his declaration. It is known to the people of real power that Kandal, the son of Aronov, nicknamed the Monarch of the Nine Suns, controls the criminal world on almost the entire planet through the Fire Salamander organization. Naturally, he must have his own ways to communicate with settlements of inferior races. So upon hearing the announcement, all the giant tribes sent delegates to the Ashera tribe with dozens of questions in their heads. How did the settlements obtain these weapons? How did humans reach the martial emperor realm? Since when did they even have such an advanced cultivation system? Who is their leader so they can talk to him directly? What do they want by moving their armies now? And most importantly, what the hell is going on? The answer was more shocking than seeing the hostile armies. It turned out that there is a third heavens chosen from the human race. Aronov told them that the third heavens chosen had been working in secret for 50 years so that what happened to the first and second would not happen to him, and that he had strengthened the inferior races all over the planet to the degree they had seen with their own eyes, and that he was the one leading them in secret. Aronov was not stingy in praising Robin and exaggerating the things he invented until he painted for all attendees a legendary image of him that could not be shaken. Even though they had never seen him, Aronov's words, along with what they saw of settlements of the races that were no longer inferior, were enough to plant a seed of fear inside their chests toward this third heavens chosen. This disastrous news spread quickly, shaking all the giant tribes. Even that person secluded in the mountains was said to have laughed with excitement when he heard the news. But Aronov contented himself with describing the progress that Robin had achieved and that he had strengthened and armed the entire world in secret. And he did not mention that he came from another planet or talk about his history in the eastern region or the prophecy of the invasion or mention the horrors that are currently occurring in the rest of the regions of the planet. And he did not tell them about his ultimate goal with all the things he's doing. So the announcement of the third heavens chosen was extremely vague and gave them a feeling of mystery mixed with danger, as if the worst of beasts was breathing under their necks. The meeting, whose goal was to collect information to clarify the bigger picture, made them accumulate more questions. The good thing is that the Settlements Union told the Ashera tribe that they would not be the ones starting the war, but they were ready to defend themselves, and that they were ready to cooperate with the giant tribes so that the wheel of production would turn again, but this time as partners, not as slaves. They also warned the giant tribes against interfering in what was happening in the Azul tribe, or even sheltering one of them, saying that the northern giants tribes shall be 11 starting from that day. That announcement was extremely arrogant. As soon as the settlements finally opened their mouths, they announced that they had become equal to the Nahari giants, announced that they had decided to exterminate one of the 12 tribes, and even threatened them not to interfere. But contrary to what was expected of them, The tribal leaders put their shoes in their mouths and remained silent. Maintaining this apparent peace currently is better than starting a war against an entity that they do not know anything about yet. It is better to remain silent and endure until the appropriate opportunity arises to return those damn lowly races to their places, or at least until they find that hidden heavens chosen and repeat what happened with the second heavens chosen with him. This strange peace continued for more than 2 years, and the two sides returned to dealing with each other, but with extreme apprehension. It was not unusual to see an armed human walking through a city of giants now to buy or sell something, but with every step, the eyes of all the giants in the street would be focused on him. Or when a giant went to a settlement to hire a companion to work with him, he would feel from the looks of hatred and anticipation that he needed to get out of there as quickly as possible. Each side was looking at the other as if it were a lion who had decided to live in front of the door of his house. They could not kill it and could not drive it away. They had no choice but to coexist until a miracle happened. As for the settlements in the lands of the Azul tribe, their conditions were much better. They controlled all the fields, mines, and important areas and were completely independent from the giants. Well, there were no longer giants there to be independent of anyway. There are no giants left in the vast lands of the Azul tribe except for those who remain in the destroyed capital surrounded by the hills of rotting corpses, inside which are the 35 martial emperors and with them about 20,000 soldiers, all of whom bear the name of the Azul family. The settlement's announcement of their abandonment and the approval of the rest of the northern giants' tribes put the final nail in their coffin. They no longer had a place to save them or a shelter to go to, and even their lands became besieged on all sides by the settlements and human martial emperors. Every few days, part of the army would go out alongside 5 martial emperors to carry out hunting operations to put some food in the stomachs of the survivors, but they are subjected to ambushes, and in the end they return with very little food, barely enough to keep them alive. Up to this point, more than 2,000 soldiers have died from hunger, and their corpses have been turned into food for the living. There is a rumor within the walls that a number of those 2,000 did not really die of hunger, but were secretly killed with the intention of providing food for the rest. But this information was not confirmed at the time, and no one was interested in confirming it either. They continued to eat their brothers with tears filling their eyes. The leader of the Azul tribe, Dewuder, is no longer conscious of his surroundings. He does not respond to anyone or speak to anyone. Everyone says that he has already gone mad. As for his sons and the rest of the martial emperors, they tried a lot to communicate with Richard, but to no avail. The human martial emperors no longer even try to kill them in ambushes as before. If this were true, they would all have left with the intention of dying long ago to escape this torment. But under Richard's orders, they are no longer allowed to die. Anyone who tries to leave the city is attacked only until they return to the city, and if they refuse to return, a few bones are broken and they are thrown back inside. The great tribe of Azul giants turned into a tragedy in every sense of the word. Back to the present. Is there anything new? Peon raised his distorted eyebrows and asked Richard after he finished receiving the message. Richard leaned his back against the wall and closed his eyes. What could be new? The same content of the messages every day. They tell me that news with the rest of the planet is about to spread in the northern region. Humph, they think I don't understand what they want to say. And what do you think this is? Peon pressed the question. They want me to give orders to finish off the Azul tribe. Only by then the invasion can be announced and preparations begin. Isn't that what you are all thinking? Richard responded annoyed. By this time, a group of vanguards of the invaders had already arrived and had been raiding the central region for 6 months. Until this moment, the northern region is still dancing on a delicate thread of balance between the Nahari giants and the rest of the races, each of them watching the other side with caution and waiting for orders from those in charge. But this also provided relative peace in the northern region and enabled Richard to do what he wanted with the Azul tribe without anyone's intervention. But if news spreads about the arrival of a foreign invasion and about the massacres taking place in the rest of the regions of the planet, this calm will collapse immediately. If the Nahari giants in the northern region knew what was happening to their kind in the eastern and southern regions at the hands of other intelligent races, there would be no room for peace anymore. They would be certain that the current peace is only a mask until their enemies reach a certain level of power, of course. they will order a massacre to begin immediately, and one of their goals will certainly be to rescue what remains of the Azul tribe in order to prevent their enemies from doing what they want. On the other hand, even the settlements do not know about the arrival of the invasion, so if the news spreads that a planetary empire is coming to destroy their planet, they will lose their focus and the northern region will enter into chaos from all sides that the Shadow Swords and the Ashera Giants tribe will not be able to contain in time. The chaos will be so devastating that the remnants of the Azul tribe inside the city may be able to escape, and this is something that is completely unacceptable. Therefore, it is absolutely not permissible for news to spread in this way. There are already plans made to bring this news to everyone in reasonable ways that do not cause the expected panic, but these plans require the full focus of the true beginning empire. But unfortunately this does not work now because Richard currently maintains 40 martial emperors next to him in the Azul region. Richard, how long do you intend to torture them? Pion got straight to the point. He knew why Richard had postponed storming the city until today. For as long as possible. Richard didn't hide anything either. His features suddenly turned uglier. Dewuder, Saladar, and the rest of their entourage who were at that party are all in the city now. I have engraved their faces in my head. They all took a piece of my mother, my third brother. I have not had enough of them yet. They must not die yet. As long as possible, that's not an answer. Pion shook his head. It could be tomorrow or in 100 years, and we can't continue like this. Even though your father didn't say anything and still tells us to support you with whatever you want. I know him well. Your father likes everything to go according to plan. His stomach must be hurting now because he can't control your actions. Pion laughed at the last part as he imagined his adoptive father's appearance when he found out about the current situation. I told you repeatedly that I have gathered enough strength to deal with everyone inside that city in my own way. Go on your way and let me deal with them in my own way. Finally, Richard opened his pitch-black eyes and stared into Pion's eyes for a moment. But at that moment, he showed some of the killing intent that he carried towards the giantess within the city. Pion inhaled strongly and held his chest with both hands as if his soul was coming out and quickly looked away. Sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Richard got up terrified and almost put his hand on his third brother to pat him on the shoulder. But he stopped his hand at the last moment and withdrew it forcefully. It's okay. Cough, cough. It's okay. Pion began to take turns inhaling and exhaling loudly for a few moments until he finally calmed down, sending a confused sideways glance toward this little brother of his. That killing intent. It's terror itself. Is this the gaze of someone who killed more than 50 million intelligent beings with his own hands? If the issue of responsibility for blood was mentioned, Robin would undoubtedly bear the death of tens of millions as well, but the number of those he killed with his own hands and saw life leave from their eyes was not that many. Richard is different. Richard killed off every single giant in the Azul tribe land himself until killing became like breathing for him. His current aura rivals that of Caesar, who uses the fire of death. But when it comes to the killing intent that rages in every cell of his body, no one can compete with him. One look from him now can destroy the souls of some unprepared cultivators. When Pion saw Richard's remorseful expression, he moved towards him to pat him on the shoulder. I know that you are capable of killing them all alone, but this is different from the role we are playing. You will not be able to besiege them and contain them alone, just as you still cannot defeat Dewuder in a fight yet, right? Richard nodded, using the fire of life and the amount of preparations he had made. He could easily wipe out the entire Azul tribe army and even fight the 35 martial emperors and kill a large number of them, but some of them would surely escape. His strength would not help him imprison them or fight them face to face and force them to stay inside the city, so even though he told Pion to leave whenever he tried to restrict him, he did not really want them to leave. Pion sighed. I know what you're going through. If someone said that the people who killed my family were still alive, I would go and do to them like you're doing now, but we have to look at the bigger picture here. If news leaks out from the rest of the regions before you finish with the Azul tribe, we might be exposed to attacks from the rest of the tribes, and Dewuder and his martial emperors would surely escape. By then you will find no one to take revenge on if you wanted to. After a silence that lasted for about a minute, Richard finally nodded with an unwilling expression. A big smile appeared on Pion's face and she hit Richard's shoulder twice hard. Okay. Cheer up. Just because you finally decided to clean up that damn city doesn't mean you have to kill them all. We recently received a gift from your father, and I wanted to keep it as a surprise for the right time. Haha. Take a look. Richard looked at his third brother in surprise. What gift is that? Receiving help from his father is no longer strange or a psychological burden for him. After all, he has been using everything available to him for years. I contacted Zara after she took over as head of the Research and Development Department and asked her for a way to imprison a martial emperor without killing him or destroying his energy gathering center. A big smile appeared on Pion's face. And what is the result? Richard's black eyes lit up for the first time in a while. This was indeed a big dilemma for him, as there was no known metal that could stop a martial emperor from escaping. Even Uracilium would warp over time if the martial emperor tried to destroy it, so it could not be relied upon while destroying the energy gathering center for a person who lived for hundreds or thousands of years means his rapid death, and this contradicts the reason for his arrest in the first place. And that is precisely why Richard had to besiege them inside the city for this entire period. Several teams from the Research and Development Center worked on the request and made some progress on it, but they were unable to complete it. You must know the difficulty of a request like this. Pion shook his head slightly before showing another smile on his distorted lips, but after His Excellency left his seclusion and learned of the situation, he decided to lead the development process and managed to do it in the end. At this point, Pio concluded something resembling a palm-sized nail from his space ring. If this nail were driven into anyone's chest, it would cause any excess energy in his body that isn't needed to support his life to evaporate, and that body would be an enemy of any kind of usable energy until the nail was removed again. Even the powerful bodies of the Nahari giants would be nothing significant after their muscles, bones, and blood are completely emptied of energy. Then Pion continued, in my opinion, the only problem with the nail is that it cannot be used unless you get close enough to hammer the nail into your opponent's chest and wait until the nail finishes discharging all the energy into your opponent's body, which may take some time. This means that you have to defeat him first, but other than that it's perfect. Your dad is a genius, huh? Is there really something like this? But its size. Richard exclaimed excitedly, but quickly furrowed his eyebrows again from looking closely at the nail. That thing looks like a peg to fix tents, and it is somehow supposed to be driven into the chest of the person to be imprisoned? Does the prisoner even stay alive after that? You don't have to worry about it. His Excellency said in a message that the sealing nail contains rules that make the wound heal quickly, so that the target does not die and makes the flesh wrap around the nail to make it difficult to remove it. He also added a feature that makes the nail cause unbearable pain so that you can control its operation and stop by simply a touch. It is undoubtedly the perfect solution that you were looking for. Not to mention that the sealing nails are easy to make, and he actually sent a package containing 20,000 of those things. Pion naturally understood what Richard was thinking. Yeah, it really is the perfect solution. When I see things like this, I feel a little happier. It tells me that he didn't give up his revenge all those years because he didn't care, but because he was obsessed with planning and being too idealistic. Richard smiled and shook his head, but at the same time he let out a long sigh. This nail is indeed an ideal solution, even if it is temporary. Waiting for the right moment and good planning are the characteristics of great leaders. Pion didn't know what to say, so he said a casual idiom. He made up. Richard examined the sealing nail for a few more minutes before he remembered something. And then what? What will happen to those prisoners? I don't think you'll let me keep them inside the city. Huh. Pion was silent for a while, as if trying to think of a way to say what he wanted. In the end, he sighed and decided to speak directly. Your father wants you to send them to planet Jura. Richard's eyes, as black as a well in the middle of the night, opened wide and his dark aura seeped out of him against his will. He has great audacity to order something like this. Has he forgotten his promise to leave the Azul tribe to me? It is a request, not an order. Your father said that we should not pressure you if you refuse. If you have a better plan, then please go ahead. Pion tried to remain calm in the face of this terrible aura, but he still started to stutter a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Richard closed his eyes again and took a few steps away. Did he tell you what he intended to do to them? Your father is a genius when it comes to improvement, but I noticed that he is even more of a genius when it comes to brutality. He just doesn't realize it. Pion approached Richard again. He did not want him to isolate himself like Caesar. Hand them over to him, Richard. You are still a young man and have already become a martial emperor, and you have a terrifying talent. Why do you want to hinder yourself here and be content with torturing those fools? You're bigger than that. You have a whole life ahead of you. Then he continued, laughing. Secondly, you have been torturing them for years already and have killed tens of millions of them. What's the problem if you leave a handful for your father? Give your father a chance to play with them a little, okay? He has revenge against them just like you do. Richard nodded a few times. I think this would be a good way to thank him for the help he's given me. There is no need for thanksgiving between a father and his son. Puna quickly intervened. Richard just smiled. Get the men available and let's go try those nails out. Now? Pion raised his eyebrows. There are only around 30 emperors with us at the moment, most of whom are wind law users, and there are a small number of lightning and darkness users, and the enemy has 35 emperors whose levels range from 41 to 46, in addition to the army of 20,000 law users in the same city. If you decided upon the direct confrontation, wait a little while. I will ask the headquarters to send more martial emperors, and I will coordinate with the settlements to advance with us. Richard waved and said the most arrogant sentence he could say. There is no need. I'm here. But Pion was not surprised by this response. He saw with his own eyes what this young man was capable of. Calling it a one-man army is not an exaggeration at all.